running a few minutes behind. We're trying to get a technology thing worked out, so sit tight. You're welcome. Good, how are you? All right, thank you for your patience, everyone. Good evening. This is the May 13th, 2025 Planning Board agenda for the town of Braintree. We have a full board this evening, and Director Matchek, Assistant Director Murphy, and as we normally do, we start our old new business at 7 o'clock. We are obviously starting late with the technology issues, but we will have the old new business first and then move on to our public hearings at 7:15. So, starting off, it is not on the agenda, but I wanted to mention Assistant Director Murphy, and I think at some of the prior meetings I've said this before, but he has stepped up and done an amazing job after Director Santucci-Razzi has left, and he has done a lot of hard work in the town of Braintree over the past 8 years, which I didn't even realize he started here as an intern and moved his way up to Assistant Director of Planning. And unfortunately for us, but fortunately for the town of Canton, he is moving on and has accepted a position as town planner for Canton. And so we will miss him dearly. This is his last meeting. And I just wanted to thank you for all of your help, particularly during this transitional period, but also over the past couple of years. So thank you. And he loves everybody talking about him also. All right, now moving on. The first item on our old new business is a request for minor modification from Simon Property Group. This one corresponds with our first continued public hearing in some respects, and in some respects it's a separate application. Similarly, the second item on our business agenda is Planning Board File 82-3, which is the Pearl Plaza Realty Trust, which also corresponds with one of our public hearings. So I will call Simon first, but first I'll just move on to the meeting minutes of April 8th. So first item on our agenda, did anyone have any comments with the meeting minutes? No? All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 8th.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Member Kane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so now we'll move on to the request from Simon Property Group, which is Planning Board File 803. So we did have a request from Simon Property Group to remove 7 acres of property from the South Shore Plaza, which is subject to a long line of special permits and decisions. Do we have anyone from Simon Property to speak on the request?
Yes, Tim Fox, Simon Property Group, South Shore Plaza. We moved to the request relative to the residences at South Shore project that Sound Living is proposing with our firm endorsement.
Okay. Thank you. I had a couple of questions with the removal, and part of these will come up during the ZOM hearing also because they relate to the removal and the development of that, but some of them are Simon specific. So if I could just figure out where my notes went. Sorry, okay. So the PUD was 10.3 acres, and so the removal is obviously for just a portion of that, which is where the apartment complex would go in. One of the things that I wanted to see before the removal was put into place was an easement agreement between the two parties. There's quite a few aspects of ZOM's application that affect the Simon property parcel. And then there's also parts of the PUD itself that are staying with Simon and have some interaction between the two. So I guess first would be making sure that that was acceptable. And then I wanted to go through some of the items that I thought would be helpful to see in that, and I thought made a lot of sense as we move into the next application to understand how the relationship was going to work. One of the requirements, pedestrian access, Now, the MUPUD requires, as one of the conditions, that developments provide multi-use paths for safe pedestrian access for pedestrians and bicycles between abutting land and the PUD. So when I was looking at the plan, it looks like the crossing area between the parking lot for the old 99, which is being retained by Simon, it looks like, and the parking garage in front of Target, that there be some upgrades to that pedestrian area, whether that's a lighted sign for people to cross as they're crossing, whether that's additional lighting around there. But I thought that was one thing that would be important as we get more people walking and particularly connecting between the apartments and the mall. The second one was some mechanism to ensure continued growth and maintenance of the landscaping that's on Simon property, but is next to Flaherty School, and it provides part of the buffer between the apartments, the mall, and also the school and the houses behind the school, sorry. Another one is cooperation with some of the post-construction monitoring in the ZOM application. There's, part of this process was getting all the peer review back, and there's a number of conditions that I anticipate you're aware of, but one of them is continued monitoring of the traffic. And one of my concerns has always been that there's going to be more traffic going out onto Common Street than what's coming back with the traffic assessments, because just based on the way some people drive in the mall and the way the roads lay out. And so looking for a commitment from Simon that if something needs to be done to mitigate traffic, that Simon's on board with it, and as long as it's reasonable. So for example, if the traffic monitoring shows that there's a lot more cars going out on Common Street than what we're anticipating, and it's over the 10% threshold, then Simon might be open to putting speed bumps along that roadway next to where the Nordstrom used to be, or doing some modification to the light on Common Street to make it more annoying to go that way, where people are more likely to go out to Granite. And then the last thing I had was a shuttle or MBTA stop. So the 2008 approval requires Simon to promote the MBTA stop for its tenants, for the employees working there. And when I looked today at the MBTA stop, and when I looked on the MBTA website, it took approximately 26 minutes to get from the mall to the Quincy Adams T station using that stop, because you basically go all the way down through Braintree, and then you go up, and then you go over, or you go up through Quincy and then over. So one of the conditions in the ZOM draft approval is for a shuttle for the residents there, and ZOM can stop providing the shuttle if nobody's using it. And while I don't think that it's inappropriate necessarily requirement, I think it makes a lot of sense for Simon and ZOM to talk about a shared shuttle where that's just a South Shore Plaza shuttle, and then people might use it a lot more. So those are the things that I was hoping to see in the easement agreement when it comes up, and to make, from my perspective, and of course I'm only one person, but to make any approval for the modification subject to review and approval of that agreement prior to the actual land being deeded out.
Okay, that's a lot. So
Yeah.
let me try to answer all of those points. So first is, yes, there is an easement agreement that we've been negotiating. In fact, we've been negotiating it for some time. And upon completion of that agreement, that's an agreement that is submitted and filed and becomes a public document. So, to your question, if there are specifics, as you had pointed out, we're happy to share some of those details with you. I will say the issue of the shuttle is not something that we've discussed, so I think that we'll have to take that under advisement and get a better understanding of exactly what that could entail before we can kind of provide some thoughtful comments. Your previous comments, I guess, more related to site plan issues. I hope that some of them may be addressed in ZOM's presentation. If not, we're happy to engage in discussions, whether it be improvements on walkways or speed mitigation. That's, reasonable measures would happily engage in those discussions, yes.
Okay.
And I think the landscaping is covered in the ZOM presentation.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those things are parts of what ZOM has already presented, or I anticipate hearing more about this evening. But want to make sure that where some of the conditions in the ZOM draft approval are after everything's said and done, the property is now separated, and what do we do if something's different than what we anticipated? And just generally making sure Simon's on board to helping everybody navigate that system. No.
Agreed,
Okay.
yes.
All right, anybody else? Member McCamey?
No, that was very complete, thank you.
Member Kent?
All set. All set.
Member Conley?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I think the only other thing I have on my list here was our repeated requests for a 10-year plan for the site as well, just a long-term projection of what the site will be beyond ZOM.
Sure, I'm happy to provide some information now, or I could do it as part of the ZOM presentation, just a little bit of information on kind of what's going on at the property. And I think we've talked about this in some meetings past of kind of our long-term plans, but just some of the recent happenings at the property. First is the replacement of Nordstrom with Dick's Sporting Goods. So Dick's Sporting Goods will be opening a House of Sport, which you may be familiar with the concept. There are several in the area. The most recent opened up in Salem, New Hampshire at the Mall at Rockingham Park. We're very excited about that. So construction should start shortly with an anticipated opening in '26. We also recently obtained control of the former Lord & Taylor building and adjacent property. And so we have been coming up with a handful of different development options. So we think we had some really good prospects, and we expect it, I hope to be back in front of this board in short order with a project for redevelopment of the former Lord & Taylor. And then related to, closer to the ZOM project, the former 99 building has garnered quite a bit of interest, mostly from food users, restaurants, one user who's looking at a potential specialty market. And those discussions have picked up quite a bit of added interest since the recent approvals related to ZOM's project. So we expect that space would be occupied, in connection with the residential project opening up. So those are kind of some of the big changes that are happening at the property. In terms of a 10-year plan, I mean, that really, those will be the major projects over the next 5 to 10 years. We've taken on many capital improvement projects, some that may not get as much attention as others, such as replacement of rooftop units, chillers, improvement to the parking deck, that sort of thing. So, there's, close to, I believe it's just under $9 million over the last 3 years that have been invested, and we'll continue to make those investments. There's some more visible improvements that have been made. Just last year, there was a landscaping project that covered the area from Granite Street towards Macy's. So we expect that there will be some added landscaping projects. Those will be covered kind of on an annual basis, whether it's landscaping islands or areas in front of the property along either Common or Granite Street. I don't know if you have any questions, but that's kind of our vision for kind of the next few years of things that will be happening at the property.
So specifically, though, to additional residential properties being proposed?
I'm sorry?
Additional residential properties being proposed? There's none on the
Not at this
horizon
time,
for a
no.
10-year?
No.
Member Kinahan?
Nothing else.
Okay. All right. So, and did you have anything to add on your end, either of you?
If I may, through the chair to the board, this was preliminary. This was really just for the removal of the second acres. They're going to be coming back to the planning board eventually to do an approval not required plan. They'll have the frontage off of Lakeside Drive, and they'll carve out the 7-acre parcel. To answer your question on the landscaping, and specifically the landscaping surrounding the gate and the maintenance of the gate, and then further the landscaping that's going to be proposed along Flaherty, the way staff looked at it was ZOM would be installing that, but those plans would be reflected in the minor modification request here tonight for the South Shore Plaza. ZOM installs it, South Shore Plaza maintains it, and they have surviving conditions on their property requiring them to maintain that landscaping.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So I think with that, I would be on board. I guess what I would say for my suggested, what I would be comfortable with would be approving the request for minor modification, subject to review an approval of the easement agreement just to confirm it's consistent with the conditions imposed on ZOM. And that way, you know that we're not trying to add something that you never thought of, but we have a way to make sure that whatever ZOM is required to do has Simon's cooperation. Does that sound like?
That's reasonable.
Okay, all right, so with that, I guess I'd be looking for a motion to approve the minor modification subject to approval of the easement agreement for consistency with the ZOM decision.
So move.
We have a motion by Member Kent. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member McCamey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, and that brings us, so as I mentioned earlier, we'll skip over the Pearl Street business item for now and move right into the development continued public hearing. So if the applicant wants to start off on that.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairperson Croha, members of the Planning Board, Frank Marinelli. I'm a lifelong resident of Braintree with my office located at 439 Washington Street, Braintree, for the record. I think probably since we haven't been together since March 11th, we'll just give an overview of the project again and context. I'm pleased to represent ZOM Living's development of the residences at South Shore. 325 beautifully designed apartment homes with substantial open space. The open space is about 47% of our site. Water views, lush landscaping, a dense, high vegetated berm at the easterly end of the MUPUD zone at South Shore Plaza. On November 19th, 2024, the MUPUD zone at South Shore Plaza was overwhelmingly approved by the Braintree Town Council, almost 80% of the vote. ZOM's high-quality apartment homes are $140 million of critically needed economic development, ideally located at South Shore Plaza, close to major highway, I-93 on and off ramps. As peer-reviewed, the residences create over $500,000 in net real estate tax revenue, new net real estate tax revenue to Braintree each year. Housing is added with great success at large retail, nationwide and locally, and it's a catalyst, as Mr. Fox has stated in the past, to further investment. We all know the venues locally: Hanover Crossing, Legacy Place, University Avenue, Marketplace Linfield, Chestnut Hill Shops, Natick Mall, many others. Secondly, housing is mentioned 10 times in the purposes of the MUPUD approved for the South Shore Plaza by the Council. Section 617 of the ordinances, Purpose 3, says, quote, promote the prevalence and benefit of housing at regional shopping centers, provide multifamily housing in the MUPUD. Purpose 7 states, integrate a higher and better use of vacant acreage in the MUPUD by allowing multifamily housing to be constructed at the regional shopping center, end quote. The vacant acreage here to be transformed is presented as surplus parking, wasteland, or in some instances near a homeless encampment. The $140 million residences are a compelling transformation consistent with the MUPUD purposes. Thirdly, development within the MUPUD requires a special permit finding that the development plans before you are, quote, in keeping with the concept plan that was approved by the council in November. And the development plans before you certainly are in keeping with the concept plan that was approved by the town council in November. Apartment homes are an allowed use within the MUPUD. That is set forth in the staff report and table 1 of the ordinance. Allowed, yes. Special permit, no for the use. There's no special permit for the use. As Chair Crowhar stated on March 11th, there are conditions, many of them. We have 69 conditions in the draft decision before you. The ZOM team, who's been in this process for almost 4 years, has reviewed all of the conditions, and the conditions are acceptable. Fourthly, the staff reports of March 7th and May 8th conclude that ZOM has complied with all requirements for approval of the development. The proposed development is in compliance with the concept plan as approved under Town Council Order 24-34. The application submitted is in keeping with the concept plan for the MUPUD. The proposed multifamily use by right is an action seen at multiple retail centers found regionally and nationally, end quote. This is a needed action within our community and most importantly at an historically retail-based area. That is the staff report. The May 8th staff report concludes that the applicant has addressed all comments, peer reviews, and department requests. ZOM, a premier residential development company, has developed over 30,000 apartment homes nationwide, over $5 billion in development. ZOM looks forward to proceeding with construction as set forth in the conditions for this exciting $140 million investment in Braintree. With me again tonight is our entire development team who was here on March 11th. Just briefly introduce them. Jim Dunlop, who's the managing director of ZOM. Also here from ZOM is Nick Rahman. Jeff Dirk, our transportation engineer of VAI, is here. Ian Ramey, our landscape architect of Copley Wolf, and Frank Andre, our architect of HCM. Also Brian Dundon, who is our project civil engineer of R.J. O'Connell Engineering, Susan Ellsbury and Lawrence Scribby of Benchmark Strategies. We're always happy to answer any questions that the board or the public may have. Our team is available tonight to do that. As you know, we had the full presentation on March 11th. The board authorized at that time the drafting of the proposed conditions. Just briefly, over the past 4 years, Jim Dunlop has worked in good faith and been a welcome presence in our community. Jim and the ZOM team diligently embrace community outreach and engagement, and you can see that in the books that we've distributed. There were, at the time, at the time those were compiled, there were over 30 letters of support. There were many other letters that came in over the past week. So I think we're probably over 40 letters of support. It has more public support than any other zoning proposal in recent years. The ZOM team also developed a comprehensive website to keep Braintree residents well informed. And to date, our website has attracted over 3,500 unique visitors. Over the past year alone, we organized and held 9 publicized meet and greets, community meetings all over town, including at the proposed development site, at Farmers Market, at Braintree American Legion, at Watson Park, East Braintree, Highlands Playground, to ensure maximum resident participation. And there have been many other meetings and hearings, as you know, including the town council meetings in November, subcommittee and full council, and the planning board hearing in October. So any other narrative about the process is incorrect. This has been a very thorough and well-publicized process with all sorts of community opportunities as well. Tim Fox, the Vice President of Development for Simon, is here, as you know, and Tim is also here with Alan Smith, the General Manager of the South Shore Plaza. The South Shore Plaza is Braintree's #1 taxpayer and commercial hub for almost 65 years, now providing over $7 million in critical tax revenue each year to a town that a year ago faced an $18 million deficit and needed an $8 million override. Large retail centers nationwide and locally have evolved with quality apartment homes. The residences, again, are a catalyst to that, to further improvement. The May 8th favorable staff report, which you've received, talks about that. Quote, "The positive impacts are apparent. This type of development is what attracts premier commercial tenants, some of what Tim talked about, and this version of mixed use is what will be seen in the years to come. So it's time to move forward. The development process is governed by Chapter 40A, the Zoning Act. Standing is an important concept. There are rules. Parties in interest under the Zoning Act are abutters and abutters to abutters within 300 feet. No house on Lakeside Drive is within 300 feet. The closest single-family home on Lakeside is over 2 football fields away, over 700 feet, according to our engineer, Brian Dundon, who's here. And that owner and those beyond are not parties in interest under the Zoning Act. Nonetheless, ZOM has been diligent and attentive in its plans with the MUPUD at South Shore Plaza, providing the dense, high vegetated berm, presented in detail, that separation on March 11th. There's no future ZOM resident access to or from Lakeside Drive. ZOM intends to construct the thick, high vegetation berm early in the construction process. And that will give the green giant arborvitaes an opportunity to start growing. They grow quite fast. Also, we heard about the school. Flaherty School is obviously something that we want to be sensitive to, and we will obviously comply with the environmental protection standards that are in Article 11. The Flaherty School, by also, that metric is 425 feet. The school is 425 feet from the residential building, and is separated by the parking lot to the school, as you know. We've had many work sessions with the planning department and department heads. Congratulations to Connor Murphy. He's been a pleasure to work with. He worked very hard on this, and we congratulate him and wish Mr. Matchek well in the new position as well. Since the March 11th public hearing, we made the following changes to the plans that were the result of those meetings and some of the commentary that we received on March 11th. First, we were asked to aesthetically improve the emergency gate, and ZOM agreed to do that with landscaping and repainting of the gate. There's a filed plan that you see up here. We were asked, secondly, with South Shore Plaza's permission, which Tim and Simon have given, to thicken and augment the vegetation between the plaza and the Flaherty School along that boundary. And ZOM agreed to do that with arborvitae, and there's a filed plan. There are mature trees that will be preserved and gaps that will be filled with arborvitae. Thirdly, we were asked to remove some balconies looking east. ZOM agreed to do that, and again, there's a filed plan. Fourthly, we were asked to apply some screening to roof mechanicals, even though the view angles already diminish seeing roof mechanicals from the ground. Nonetheless, ZOM agreed to do that and provided the screening, and we've got the filed plan. ZOM also filed a tree protection plan. The development complies with the tree protection plan. Trees to be removed are predominantly where the apartment homes will be located, as you'd imagine. So ZOM, however, plants significantly more trees than are removed. There are 303 trees that would be removed, and 396 new trees would be planted. So it's a net gain of 93 trees under the tree protection plan. ZOM was asked to install vegetation along the southeasterly portion of the boundary with the DCR, the dam, and we are doing that as well. We have that filed plan, as you can see here. Concerning the peer review on traffic, the development's traffic through 5 corners during peak hours is an imperceptible 1 vehicle every 6 minutes, or 10 vehicles per peak hour. Nonetheless, as requested the last time, ZOM is adding, per the MDM peer review done on behalf of the town, we're adding 5 corners to performance of a road safety audit. And also, as a safety measure, we're providing, at the request of the police department, 4 flock cameras, 2 as requested in the vicinity of 5 Corners, and another 2 by the on and off ramps at I-93. You will recall from March 11th that primary access to the residence is to and from Granite Street, 3 curb cuts on Granite Street. Proceeding easterly, you go to the site, which is a drop of about 28 feet in elevation, so it's really submerged as concerns the elevation of Granite Street. And you get to the layout of the 325 quality residences. The chair talked about the location in that area in South Shore Plaza Drive. We're in a single 4-story building with pool, indoor, outdoor amenities, fitness center, over 47% open space, where only 30% is required. That's almost 60% more open space than required. We have 52% lot coverage, 52.1, where 70% is permitted, so over 25% less lot coverage. And then again, the dense, going easterly, the dense high, 10-foot high berm at the easterly with green giants on top. And you can take a look at sheet L200 landscape plan, which has literally thousands of plantings on that. We have wrap parking inside the building, so whatever floor you live on, you can park your car on that floor, pretty much. The central receiving court is at the westerly end of the development. That's very appropriate. It's close to the retail. It's close to the 99 building, former 99 building that Tim talked about. And that's one-way circulation in and out of that receiving court. Dick's will be across the street in the former Nordstrom. And so that's the appropriate location of the primary entrance and exit. And then proceeding east, you'll have the ingress and the egress to the interior garage. And then further east, you'll have, and wrapping around to the south, you'll have the public walking trail, which is parallel to the dam. Some residences pay for, the project pays its own snow plowing, trash collection, repairs, and maintenance. There's no town burden on that. There's no resident vehicle access to or from Lakeside. They're all 1- and 2-bedroom apartment homes. Renters by choice are primarily young professionals and empty nesters. There's no 3-bedroom apartment homes. The residences are critical to Braintree's financial health and future. Mayor Joyce came into office in 2024, and she inherited an existing $18 million deficit. There was really no new development, no new real estate tax revenue in the years prior. And of course, as you know from even the Ledger article this morning, real estate tax revenue pays up to 75%, 70 to 75% of the expenses of our town. So that's about over $120 million currently with a $176 million budget and growing. The town auditor had warned the council 3 years ago that we were on an unsustainable path, that expenses outpace revenue. So as peer reviewed by Carl Seidman of MIT, very good news for Braintree, is that ZOM's development creates an average of $500,000 in new net real estate tax revenue each year, plus immediate pre-construction revenue of over $2.3 million. Additionally, the staff notes in its May 8th report that there are immense economic benefits besides the metrics, because you'll have young professionals, empty nesters, renters by choice, and you know there are no in the pipeline right now in Braintree. There's not 10, $14 million projects or 7 $20 million projects that have been filed, so to equal $140 million investment that this one development brings to our town. The community investment that has been agreed to by ZOM is unmatched by any of the board's other developments, residential or commercial. ZOM's community investment includes approximately $1.9 million in building permit fee, approximately $350,000 in sewer connection fee, approximately $80,000 in water connection fee, approximately $500,000 each year in sustainable real estate tax revenue, approximately $205,000 to Braintree schools, a calculation directly from the town's peer reviewer, Carl Seidman, on page 6 of his report. And just a comment on that, and the fact that it is a community benefit that ZOM is making to the town. Under applicable cases, Franklin and Emerson College, general revenue, real estate tax revenue is supposed to fund general benefit items like schools, police, and fire. Fees are not the raising of revenue for general benefit. And that would be an impermissible tax on a general benefit to basically say that this has to happen in a certain way. There is a case, the Franklin case, that talks about charges, fees that are charged are collected not to raise general revenue, but to compensate the governmental entity for its expenses in providing that particular service. Obviously, we do that in the building, the water, the sewer, et cetera. But when it comes to, the court said in the Franklin case, the provision of sufficient school facilities is not a particular service which is unavailable to the general public. It is the government's obligation to provide such facilities to the general public out of general revenue funds. So what is the importance of that? General revenue funds. General revenue funds are supposed to fund schools, fire, police, et cetera, our municipal services. And that's the importance of what we're doing here. And what we need to be doing in Braintree is generating new net tax revenue, because that net tax revenue pays 70% or more of the expenses, which right now are $175.7 million. We're doing our part. We're also paying $290,000 for a new sewer pump and grinder at the Common Street pumping station, even though ZOM's incremental contribution of sewage to that pumping station is 2.5% of the total gallons going through that pumping station. But we're buying a new pump, a new grinder as recommended. Per the fire department memo, ZOM will pay $22,000 for mobile command unit improvement and another $8,100 for EV fire safety blankets. Per the police department memo, ZOM will pay $52,800 for police signal and technology enhancement equipment and another $72,000 for flock cameras and related three-year subscription. So altogether, this is close to $3 million before adding the over $500,000 in critical new net tax revenue to our town. ZOM looks forward to constructing the residences, $140 million of economic development, consistent with South Shore Plaza MUPUD zoning. This development helps Braintree move forward with needed new revenue and quality housing at an ideal location. We respectfully request approval of the development and the conditions, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have for our team. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I know we have a staff report here, with a lot of conditions, and Assistant Director Murphy has been working overtime between March and now to pull things in order. And I just wanted to see if you could describe a little bit of what's happened and the peer review and some of the things that have gone into this.
Yeah, if I may, through the chair. I believe the report covers sort of the progress that the application has made since March 11th. There have been a lot of comments raised, both publicly and in town hall, that the applicant has addressed, and I'd just like to go through those quickly. The applicant, as demonstrated, is increasing the landscape buffering to the Flaherty School along Lakeside Drive into the property line of Old Quincy Reservoir, the DCR parcel. In addition, they're adding mechanical screening to the southern and eastern elevations of the proposed structure. In working with the applicant, we've asked them to remove the balconies facing the Flaherty School. They have submitted elevations that reflect that. There's a condition in here requiring that the architecturals illustrate that as well. There are questions about the tree protection assessment. They hired an expert, Bartlett Tree Experts, and they show a net increase of trees on site. Additionally, we worked with the applicant and their civil engineer on the turning radius for the loading area of the structure and the garage entrance. We worked with the applicant's engineer on fire department access. If you see in your packets, they provided us a plan that shows the fire truck being able to maneuver around the walkway of the building. They've also provided for load capacity for that area for the town's largest fire apparatus. One question that came up during their application was Lakeside Drive. Staff has provided you with 2 documents tonight. One is a citation from special town meeting back in 1953, which references the acceptance of Lakeside Drive up into the property boundary line for the school. And that's reflected on the plan as well, which was endorsed by the town clerk back in 1953. So the portion of Lakeside Drive that the applicant is proposing to reconfigure, that's private. They will be working with their title attorneys when they go to transfer the land on figuring out where the fee lies. But as it stands, it's private from the school all the way in. Just to touch quickly on peer reviews, we do have our traffic peer review consultant here tonight. They gave us, clean bill of health on what the applicant's presenting. We drafted conditions relative towards the shuttle that would be provided privately by the applicant. In addition, they do have to make improvements to the internal drive stemming from Granite Street, along with audits at the Route 37 and Forbes Road intersection and the Five Corners intersection. We received a clean bill of health from our stormwater peer review consultant. We also had the sewer and water peer reviewed under our Department of Public Works. Sewer, I believe you guys were provided a memo from John Thompson citing the requested improvements that total $290,000. That's reflected in a draft condition as well. Water, that review is still ongoing. I would note that capacity is not an issue. Ultimately, it's the delivery of the water to the site. There's a drafted condition before you tonight that would require the applicant to continue to work with the peer review consultant and DPW in making sure that they'll be able to deliver the water to the site. If they have to make improvements, the applicant will have to provide those. Just quickly going over the mitigation that is reflected here tonight. As I mentioned earlier, sewer, the applicant will be providing the town with funding for a new flitch pump along with channel work and a new grinder at the Common Street Pump Station. Schools, this was a difficult one to come to, but we agreed on $204,920, and that mitigation is reflective of our peer review consultant's work for the applicant's fiscal impact analysis. I believe if you recall, during the rezone process, we had Mr. Carl Simon come before, and he vetted the applicant's fiscal impact. Moving on to police and fire. 2 memos submitted, one from the police chief, one from the fire chief, highlighting distinct mitigation requests as it relates to public safety in the area. The fire chief has asked that the applicant provide funding for a mobile relay that would go into a commanding officer's vehicle. That equipment will get installed, and it's supposed to improve the radio communications between firefighters and command at a site. Additionally, they've asked that the applicant provide for fire blankets for EV cars. Essentially, they'll be treated like fire extinguishers. They'll be on every garage level, up to 3 of them. The applicant is required to replace them if they ever have to get used. The police department has 2 requests. One is the flock cameras. I'm sure most of you on this board recall, we required those at 125 Union Street. They're license plate readers. They assist our police department in a lot of investigations, both locally and regionally. Those will be installed. There'll be 2 sets on the highway side of Granite Street, and there will be another 2 sets on the Five Corner side of Granite Street. In addition to that, they have asked that the applicant provide funding of approximately $52,800 in assisting the police department's radio network out there. They do have an existing relay at Braintree Hill Office Park. Unfortunately, 250 Granite Street sits at a lower elevation, somewhat as a bowl. So providing that equipment there off of Granite Street will help improve our police department's communication. That being said, we have prepared draft findings and conditions. The findings are relative to the applicant's need for a special permit for being consistent with the concept plan as approved by town council. We have prepared conditions relative to a site plan review request, as that's the majority of this application. I'm sure members have several questions about them, but there are boilerplate conditions, and then we get into specifics on construction, asking for truck routes, asking for the applicant to work with our administration and our school department before they pull a building permit. In addition to that, we have conditions relative to the applicant's requirement for affordable housing, in addition to the landscape berm and traffic improvements and monitoring.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep.
And it's probably a good time if we could hear from traffic peer reviewer, Mr. Mashad. Thank you.
Good evening. Andrew Arsenault representing MDM, for the record, 28 Lord Road in Marlborough. We performed the peer review on the behalf of the town, and I'll try to keep it brief as a lot has been discussed already. We found that the report itself was prepared in accordance with industry practices and the statewide and local standards for the preparation of these reports. Our review, really, we had a few items that required some technical clarification that the applicant's team has responded to and provided us. And we did expand some mitigation measures, some recommendations for the board to consider. As talked about, the expansion of the RSA program, the development of the shuttle service program, and the monitoring program recommendations that we put forth. The applicant has been acceptable to those changes. One other improvement we did talk about was the South Shore Plaza Road parking garage intersection, that signalized blinking intersection immediately west of the site. The only further comment that we have at this time is that it may just simplify measures to just cover or remove the signal heads themselves, physically take them down, put them into bags, cover them. That may simplify things for motorists and pedestrians in the area. That's all that we really have at this time, but I am available if you have any further specific questions on the peer review.
Great, thank you very much. And I think at this point, I'll move on to public comment. It is a public hearing, so if you have any questions or comments on what you've heard, the application, please come up, give your name and address. Try not to be repetitive. We do have a few people in the room, and we do have other applications after this one. This is, as many people have been following it are aware, is the second stage of this process. We went through the PUD previously a couple times, and the PUD was put into place at the end of 2024. And so the next obligation was to go through the special permit, where we could really look at the details of what the application would be like. And so we have that information back. You've heard some of it. There's been a lot more behind the scenes of going back and forth that some of the staff and the peer reviewers have described. But the peer reviewers, of course, don't tell the whole story, and a lot of the feedback has come from residences, both good, bad, concerns, questions, everything else. So definitely please come up and just go ahead and just try not to be too repetitive. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Good. Jennifer Wadland, 37 Parkside Circle. Hello, everyone. Some of this has to do with zoning, which more came from a legal perspective, which isn't me. So I might stumble through this just a tad. So, but you know, our primary concern is the protection of the neighborhood from the ZOM development during construction, upon completion, and throughout its ongoing use. Our goal is to partner collaboratively with everybody involved to preserve the integrity of the community that's down there. So that is the number one goal. With that said, I'm going to talk a little bit about some zoning concerns that were brought to me from a legal perspective, not from me, and again, I'm not from a legal perspective, so I might stumble a little bit, and then Liz is going to talk about the concerns that we've submitted for mitigation for the neighborhood. So we have different bullet points. But so Lakeside Drive. Lakeside Drive is zoned highway business on the last map that you have in front of you. I have a copy of this map, and I will be giving this to you afterwards. So, as you know, a street cannot be zoned highway business or anything else, right? Like a street cannot be zoned highway business, I am told, from a zoning and legal perspective. In fact, the area abutting this street was zoned Residence B. I have C in here, but it was really Residence B, and denied by the town for highway business zoning. So I'm not sure how it's on this map. The process for changing zoning, I feel like I don't need to tell you all this, regulations or map is governed by both state law, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5, and local procedures. So this is concerning to us about this map, and that it mentions highway business. So that's the first zoning concern that I'm going to talk about. And then also, there is a map that was submitted by the developer, the MUPUD, in 2023 and approved by Town Council. So it shows on this map, again, I have a picture of this map for you to see. It shows on this map, Lakeside Drive is listed as a public road. We believe it is a public road as it is plowed and maintained by the town, and most importantly, from a legal perspective, used as a public road for many years. Case law shows us that Massachusetts courts agree. If it is used as a public way, and it has since the 50s, or earlier, really, and Melissa, the former planning board director, spoke on a few occasions specifically quoting that Lakeside Drive is a public, I am sorry, can you hear me okay? Okay. Yeah. Is a public road. If you go to Town Council meeting where this was approved, 11/19/2024, at the 1 hour and 42-minute mark, you will see Melissa quoting this Lakeside Drive in its entirety as a public road. I'm also going to cite a case of the town of Concord versus, I'm going to butcher this, but Rossaman in 2024. In this case, the Massachusetts Appeals Court examined the status of Estabrook Road in Concord. The court considered historical usage and documentation to determine that road had been used for public travel for centuries. The court concluded that Estabrook Road was a public way, emphasizing that long-standing public use and historical records can establish a road's public status. Another case, Askew versus Seidman. This is another case that had the same finding. The road has been used for over 20 years and maintained by the town. It was concluded by the Mass Appeals Court. It had been used as a public way for more than 20 years, and therefore, it was a public way. Under Massachusetts general laws, specifically MGL Chapter 30B and related statutes, a municipality is not permitted to transfer publicly owned land to a private entity without following a legally required process that includes a formal vote by town council authorizing this disposition, a public determination that the land is no longer needed for municipal use, an independent appraisal to determine fair market value, which we've done some research and we're looking at potentially $1 million in fair market value, a competitive bidding or RFP process, clear documentation that any below market transfer serves as a legitimate public interest. So those are my concerns today, and then I'm going to turn it over to Liz, who has some of the mitigation that we were looking for the neighbors to improve their experience down there.
Hello, Liz Page, 137 Stores Ave. So some of the mitigation that we were hoping to achieve for the residential neighborhood abutting this very large development is as follows. We were looking for the enforcement of a 100-foot buffer zone, and we request that this is a strict enforcement required to protect the adjacent residential properties. We propose revisions near the Flaherty School, of the actual building itself. We had requested the removal of 16 units, 16 residential units closest to the Flaherty School to reduce the impact on both the school and the surrounding neighborhood. One item that was agreed upon was that no balconies would be overlooking the Flaherty School, and we are happy to see that that has been agreed on, and that there be a substantial berm to reduce the noise and possible light, which that appears to be being agreed with, but I think we could use a little more specificity on some of that. A complete and much denser visual buffer than what is currently proposed to minimize both the impacts of visual and sound. We have quite a few gate access and neighborhood connection concerns. We requested that the gate connecting the development to the neighborhood be permanently closed. ZOM should confirm that all pedestrian and vehicular access between the property and the neighborhood will be eliminated. We understand that it's being discussed that this gate is considered to be blocked off permanently during the development and the building of this proposal. And it's our understanding that if it can be done over such a long period of time, then why would it not be done forevermore? So in addition to that, we would like to have a large visual and sound buffer along the public land and the water's edge. A recent site drawing, specifically C4, shows that the walking path located on the public land where the earlier maps displayed a significant tree line. We would like to request that a large berm and dense visual buffer along the side that will face Parkside Circle and Rita Road. We would like to see the preservation of mature trees and vegetation to help to mitigate the light and sound from traveling across the water, which is really a very big problem to the homes that live across the dam. The sound carries at a very magnified level. And we would also like to have heavy vegetation screening in the area that's designated as a playland to further mitigate this noise. We would like development phase remediation. We request that a clear plan address potential impacts during the construction phase, including measures for remediation of noise, light pollution, and rodent displacement. Rodent concerns during construction are a real big concern to the neighborhood. We believe that more can be done to address the rodent issue, and we respectfully request that the developer provide funding upfront to ensure that residents can continue to enjoy their pools, gardens, and outdoor spaces without disruption during the long construction period from the ZOM project. So that we're hoping that this funding will be put to use to prevent the rodents from even getting into the residential neighborhood. We are asking for the town's support and intervention to help protect the quality of life for the residents in this immediate area. We are also seeking some clarification on the rooftop use. We would like to have clarification regarding what will be permitted on the rooftop of this development, specifically whether solar panels, rooftop amenities for residents, and other uses are planned or allowed. We would like your support to remove any such uses. We would like solar panels to be prohibited to protect the neighborhood as well as the outdoor public space. We thank you for your consideration, and the neighborhood thanks you for your assistance in any mitigation with this project and their property values. And one thing that I do have to say is that there has been a little bit of agreement. They agreed to put some type of vegetation along the side facing the dam and to increase the buffering along Flaherty School. But overall, the most mitigation for this project is going to the developer. There's been no compatibility of the way this looks with the neighborhood, and the neighborhood is really going to bear the brunt of this, and I really hope that you folks will do as much as you possibly can to make sure that it's not as bad as we're anticipating it might be. We need some help on this, and I hope you will step up. Thank you.
All right. I didn't go in, sorry, if you could just hold off 1 second. I just didn't go into this quite so much when we started this meeting, but I've said it in prior meetings and I'll say it now, whether somebody's in favor of or opposed or concerned or whatever it is, be respectful when you're up there. We all live here. Most of us live here. We're people of Braintree. Be respectful to one another. I'm not going to tolerate any booing. I don't care what side you're on. So do not do it or I'm going to have you removed, okay? Thank you. Please come on up. Which picture? The NOI? Mr. Dunlap, I think she was asking if you could put up Plan C1 for the notice of intent. If you, or a site plan, I'm not.
Right, the site plan.
Okay.
NOR page, yeah, page number 4, where the Flaherty School facing, doing the constructions. Good evening, Justine Huang, 25 Lakeside Drive. I'm writing to concern the resident of Flaherty neighborhood as my family's the closest houses, the closest resident on Lakeside Drive. Express my strong opposition to propose the construction of the apartment building based on the site planning design. First of all, the impact of traffic and safety by fencing public street next to Flaherty Elementary School. So if you're looking at page number 4, where the construction will be, where Flaherty site is, I have handed out for all the planning board. ZOM has requested a fencing over public road, Lakeside Drive, and over the circle, which partial of the road is belong to town Braintree. This is where our lorry way is. We have asked to close the gate, but based on the mayor's conversation with the police chief and fire chief, say the gate cannot be closed. But in their construction, if you're looking at it, a fence was built right literally after the Flaherty School parking lot. Why would that be allowed if the building, if the construction is on ZOM's property? Why fence is being put on public road? That's my first concern. And the rotary is where Flaherty School parents drop off the kids and turn around, since that's one street into Flaherty. This is my major health and safety concern for Flaherty School as well. So why are we around traffic that being blocked for public school? That's my first question. The second one is things on infrastructure and public service. Our local infrastructure include water, sewage, and emergency service. And I understand that the new pumping station is being provide replacement by ZOMs. But based on the map, it requires town of Braintree provide easement to bring water pipe from South Shore Braintree softball field into the property. So if you're looking at the map, page number 4, there's an easement between the baseball field requested, 4 feet of easement, and I want to ask, is that easement on, why is on Braintree public property, not the Plaza's property? And why is town allowing an easement such like that? So if you're looking at page 4, you will see there's an easement on Flaherty's South Braintree baseball field, 4 feet long for the water pipes to be built. And why not the easement to be on Simon property? And again, going back to Simon's agreement with Zoms, where is that? Why not on Simon's property as an easement agreement? Why would our baseball field for our youth development to be take off and be fenced for them development?
And just before you go, so what you were talking about with the circle there, so are you concerned there's a fence that's going to block the circle rotation?
The development fence, it was all over here. If you're looking at the map that I provided, that's a page 4 of the current NOI.
Okay. So,
They've been fenced all over from here to there.
okay. I think we could just hold on 1 minute. I'll just ask a question real quick. There's no fence there, is there? Or is there? Sorry, we can answer them after. I'll figure that out after. I just wanted to understand what your concern was, so thank you.
Or during the construction, they want to fence it off for 2
Okay.
years. We have
Okay.
no access to public road. We have no access to the roadways circle because it's fenced up during constructions.
Okay. I'll follow up on that after to get clarification.
So that's why I want to fence out. Also, is the third one is give away public road and liability. If they fence and develop the construction on public roads, who's liable for if accident happen? We all know that pretty much when Mayor Joy's first office, we have settled a $46 million lawsuit, which happened 30 years ago. I don't want. So my question is, who's liable during the construction when a fence is fenced over public road and they using it for constructions? And second, was really interesting, I love ChatGPT, that perspective is when Zom say Lakeside Drive from Flaherty Circle, the circle to Torwood is a private road, which Jen has explained that is a public road based on Braintree's map, based on what our town council has approved. That is 16,500 square feet. Based on ChatGPT, with the price that Simon sold the 9 acres of land for $20 million, based on ChatGPT calculation, with 16,500 square feet of Lakeside Drive, the town could have possible sell it for the same value for $841,665, based on the price that what Simon Moore sell 9 acres of land to Zom. So,
And I think I'll just to clarify the road piece. So whether it's private, whether it's public, whatever it is, a zoning decision doesn't change that. So they've said it earlier on that when they go to actually sell off the property, they'll have further research into the title of that road. Looks like the planning department found something from the 50s that indicates it's private, but whatever we do tonight isn't going to change the ownership of that road.
I understand that. But whatever we do, everybody, the support is saying that how much value we can bring in to the town, how much tax we can bring in. Why are we giving away if that's a decision that turned into a private road? I just want to point out that there's an option that we can bring in more profit than the tax value that bring in for 1 year. And the fourth item that I want to point out is environmental and green space. If rest of the discontinued Lakeside Drive should be rezoned, it should be an open space conservation. There should be a green space. We're asking for a green space and to protect the wildlife and air quality that, of the neighborhoods and the old reservoir. So it should not be a pavement road all the way to Lakeside Drive. It's just let it be ground, let it be dirt to provide, to protect our environmental space within the reservoir. Thank you for your listening, and I hope that sincerely ask you to review the site plans and the construction plan before any approval be submitted and voted on. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you can come up. I was just going to note that there is, one of the conditions in the decision, 50, does talk about a pre-construction meeting with the town. And so I have some other comments on that when we get there, but I did want to point that out. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Lorraine DeAndrea. I got here late, so I apologize. I didn't get to hear everything earlier, but I just want to say one thing. We've been here many, many times. It looks like it hasn't really changed too much since it started, but I, for one, don't want this in my neighborhood. I live on the other side of the dam. I live on Walnut Street between, I'm actually on the other side of the dam that everyone forgets about because I'm on the other side of the woods at the bottom. I think it's too close to the dam. It's too close to the school. I was looking at the original master plan that you all had put together, and there was a part in there that I thought was kind of funny that you all said there was a part in there that you were going to protect our neighborhoods. I look at this isn't protecting our neighborhoods. It's not protecting our kids. There's plenty of space in Braintree to build. That's not a good spot. It's just too close to everything. You want to build there, push it in more. You know, has the mall given you a 5-year plan yet still? Probably not. The damage that this is going to cause to the neighborhood, I don't think it's worth it. I think what we're going to gain out of it, it's not worth it. It's going to turn into a giant apartment complex in that mall. That's what we're going to have. And I just don't think that suits this neighborhood. I, for one, I'm all for building in Braintree. I love this town. I'm born and raised in this town. I just think we need to do it smarter. We have more places in Braintree that I think there's better opportunity to build. On the train lines, bus lines, nothing there. It doesn't fit the neighborhood. It really doesn't. But the wildlife, we're cutting down every tree in Braintree. It seems like everywhere you go, the trees are getting cut down. Where I live, you never heard the highway. Well, we've cut every tree down between the highway and the neighborhoods now, so that's all you hear is the traffic. But I would just hope that you would look at this and find a better spot for it, because there are better spots in Braintree that we could build this. It might not be overlooking the dam, but it just doesn't fit. The whole thing doesn't fit. And I did miss the presentation. How many floors are we up to now? The 4. But, yeah, like I said, I apologize, but I had a T-ball game. I had to be there tonight. That was important for me to be there. But I do wish you think about it, because it is having a huge impact on the neighborhood, all around the neighborhood.
All right, thank you for your comments.
You know, thank you.
Madam Chairperson, my name is Henry Russell. I live at 10 Norton Street in Braintree. I don't live in the neighborhood, but for 17 years I was the chairman of the Conservation Commission, and I am extremely familiar with this location. I was the town's representative and led the group that restored and, to the restoration of what used to be called the Quincy Dam. This dam was originally built for fire protection for the shipyard in Quincy. And it was rebuilt, 15 years ago by the Corps of Engineers. As part of that rebuilding process, there was, this is the headwaters for the town brook in Quincy. Part of the channel was left open, and it was behind the houses that are between Storrs Avenue and all the way up to Washington Street. And the area used to flood all the time. As part of the project, I was able to twist the arm of the Corps of Engineers to put a 60-inch diversion pipe in so that when there was excessive flow, the groundwater would go, the rainwater would go into the weir and not flood the neighborhood, and it hasn't flooded since. Again, just a betterment for the neighborhood. I have no axe to grind, but I have some facts that I think are important here. Number one, increasing the vegetation towards the dam runs into a problem because part of the dam that is facing Lakeside is part of the revetment or the structure of the dam. DCR regulations say that you can't plant trees on the dam. Okay? So that eliminates that. And the vegetation that's proposed by the developer stops short of that. The other question that's come up evidently is the issue about Lakeside Drive being public or private. Lakeside Drive is a private drive. I have to get permission from Simon Properties to have the Corps of Engineers use that area for access during the rebuilding of the dam. And there should be documentation in the Conservation Commission files in regard to that, okay? This has been an arduous talk. I've been following this thing, I want to say 3 years now. There was a letter in the file from one of the previous hearings discussing what my opinions were in regards to the groundwater. I'm also a civil engineer with 45 years of experience, and I'm registered here in the Commonwealth. First of all, this is a project that will obviously enhance the financial position of the town, so it's good for the town. It's also a project that's going to get rid of, in some respects, an eyesore or a attractive nuisance in the area, which is now a parking lot. Abandoned, parking lots that aren't terribly used are open invitations for all sorts of illegal activities. We all know that. By building this and having residences there, you're going to cut that out, okay? This rodent population, I don't see that's going to be a big issue. The other issue that's here is we have concerns in the town about stormwater runoff. We're going to eliminate a significant portion of stormwater runoff by eliminating the pavement and having more permeable soil, which will assist everything. Eventually, and I've been talking to the Secretary's Office of Veterans Affairs about having the name of the dam changed officially. It was done by the Corps of Engineers from the Quincy Dam to the Braintree Veterans Memorial Dam, which the state then will allow the funding for upgrading the area as a recreational purpose. Currently, the town maintains the dam, but it's owned by DCR, which is not a good situation because you know how politics go with elected politicians and appointed politicians. We want to have the town remain in control of this and keep it open. So with all of that, I hope that my insight was helpful, and I strongly recommend that you approve this and go forward for the betterment of the town. And there's been concerns here, by the way, there have been concerns about construction mitigation. Having been in the construction industry for the last 45 years, there are laws and bylaws and regulations that stipulate all of the things that have to be done. And knowing the building department in this town, that will be strictly enforced. Thank you again for your attention.
Thank you.
Good evening. I wanted to take a minute to speak in support of this project. Braintree, as it stands, is kind of on the precipice when it comes to funding.
Sorry,
What's
I
up?
don't want to interrupt you when you get going, but you have to give your name and address.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Logan Brown, 73 Beechwood Road in Braintree. Braintree's kind of on the precipice when it comes to funding and supporting the services that we know and love in this town, and we are desperately in need of new housing. I'm a fairly recent resident to Braintree. I've been here about 3 years, and trying to move here was really expensive, but Braintree has an immense amount to offer, and that's sort of what we ended up deciding to do. Thanks to the override that we've passed recently, we've managed to sort of stem the bleeding when it comes to the financial state of the town, but that's not really a permanent solution because inflation continues to grow and we continue to stagnate. Mayor Joyce has spoken about Prop 2.5 recently, and there's a reality that in the 1980s, voters in Massachusetts gave us a mandate, which is grow or die. We don't have the ability to raise taxes to keep up with inflation, so we have to make that up with growth. And Braintree really hasn't done that. You know, our population today is, I think, a couple of percent higher than it was in 1980. We've really stagnated. I'm also a little profoundly shocked by the comments about, you know, the aesthetic in the neighborhood and the style of the neighborhood when what we're talking about is a parking lot. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't find parking lots particularly aesthetically pleasing. I would really like to see us, you know, open up. Let's embrace new neighbors. Let's embrace new businesses. You know, welcome to Braintree. Let's actually get behind that. Thank you.
Hi, Jim Maloney, 24 Wellington Street, East Braintree. I'm in favor of this wonderful, money-driven project. We need the money, and as you as a board, I think we have to start to realize that we're not a town. We are a city. We need to develop. We need to develop. We don't have to be like Quincy or Weymouth, but we need to develop. We're a city. We're going to have MBTA, things coming down the board. We just need to start developing. Not everything in the plaza is going to, I don't know what Zom can do except put bubble wrap over the whole neighborhood with all the mitigations. Connor's done an excellent job, step by step. As he said, they hit everything that's required for them to do and more. So I don't think that a parking lot that no one cared about 3 years ago, now all of a sudden we all care about the parking lot. We all care about the school. All of a sudden Lake Shore Drive is a big issue. It's not. We need to develop, and you know there might be detractors. We have development on Allen Street in East Braintree. It seems to be going fine. Are there rats? Yes, but it's rats everywhere. It doesn't matter. Like that can't be. We're not growing because we're worried about mice mitigation. Are you kidding me? They're going to put traps down. They're going to do what every construction person, by law or by state. I just wish that you as a board recognize that this is a city. The town is very nice on the letterhead. It's a city. It's a city government, and we haven't started development in 10 years, 15 years. And you wonder why Quincy has all this great stuff and Weymouth has all this stuff and we have police. Quincy just hired 20 new police officers because of development, because there's money in the coffers. That's what we need. So I'm totally supportive of everything Zom's been doing, and I hope that I favor the proposal. And oh, by the way, this is the first time ever speaking at a microphone. My wife would be so proud. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Board, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. My name is Audrey Andronico. I live at 104 Weston Avenue in Braintree. And I am not going to reiterate what I've said previously. I am in support of this project. I think that it's, $140 million private investment into Braintree is something that we desperately need. And I'm thinking as a resident, my kids in the schools, we need the revenue here in town. So I'm here to implore you to please grant the final permit. Let's get the shovels in the ground. Let's show the residents, the businesses, and the next generation that Braintree is ready to move forward, not backwards. I think that it's imperative that we promote local economic growth so that our community can generate our own wealth and stand on our own. And as Jim said, we are a city. we're not a town. We have a great town-like feel. It's an absolutely amazing community. And my husband and I leveraged everything that we had so we could live here because of the schools, because of the community. And I want to see that community thrive and survive. And we cannot do that without revenue. And we can't do it with just residential taxes alone. And I ask permission. There was somebody who wasn't able to come tonight, and they asked me to read a brief. Is that okay if I do that, Madam Chair?
If it's brief. I know there's been so many letters submitted, but if it's brief, go ahead.
Okay, it's very brief. It's from Katie Marshall. She lives at 1553 Liberty Street. Parent of two, one child at Highlands and one at the integrated preschool. They've lived in Braintree for 12 years. She just briefly says, I want to underscore my support for Zom Living's proposed residential project, as well as a future for Braintree that involves thoughtful, smart development. Without projects like Zom, I am frankly very worried for our town's future, and particularly the future of our schools. We lost far too many educators and programs last year. The number of study halls at the middle school and the state of the high school building, among myriad other issues, are embarrassing, as we all know. Last year's override was a temporary life raft. We need to get serious about bringing revenue to Braintree to have any chance of investing meaningfully in our schools. I want to make the point that many of my peers, working parents with younger kids in town, have already come to rely on this project as an important step forward that is going to help set Braintree on the right path to revitalizing the plaza, creating momentum for growth in housing, and overall making it clear that we are actually willing to step into the future and support our town with the revenue it desperately needs. Our town needs this project to move forward, needs more like it, and needs it yesterday. Thank you for your time, Katie Marshall. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Denver Gibbs, 409 McAndrew Road. I'm also the chair of the Braintree Chamber of Commerce and also a small business owner here in Braintree. I'm here tonight to share the Chamber's strong support for the residents of the South Shore and Zom Living. The Chamber is deeply invested in the economic vitality of Braintree, and we recognize the critical link between housing availability and thriving community. This is a great project for Braintree, and thank you, Zom, for coming to this town.
Thank you. And I will note quickly, just on the letter front, there was, with the budget meetings, some of the counselors who couldn't make it, so we did receive letters today from Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Maglio, Councilor Reynolds, and those copies are available if anybody wants to read those, but there was overlap with that, so please go ahead.
Good evening. My name's Rob Kadayer of 143 Middle Street. Back here once again. I feel like this is becoming a regular thing at this point. This project yet again trying to be shoved down the throat of a town in a neighborhood that doesn't want it. But as things in Braintree have been going lately, why should we expect anything different? As we've seen, the concerns of the residents are pushed aside by the current administration, yet the red carpet is rolled out and the town bends over backwards to accommodate big developers. When asked over the years, a vast majority of the town's residents favor single-family or at the very least owner-occupied condos for any future development. Apartments are at the very bottom of that list in terms of what they favor. They're about as popular in this town as the New York Yankees are. On top of this, considering the MBTA Communities Act imposing on the area around Pearl Street and South Braintree Square, as well as the Armstrong site plans, what a slap in the face this is for the neighborhood. You're going to be getting all the development that nobody really wants anyway, but why more of it in a neighborhood that doesn't want it, and in a neighborhood that it doesn't fit in? Additionally, I see they took absolutely no effort to update the design as that issue was brought up the last time. It's still rocking that boxy AI design looking monstrosity that looks like it should be more something in the seaport. Not in Braintree, a town that actually has some architectural charm to it. Also, 40 letters of support. I believe that's what they were boasting earlier today. In a town of about 38,000 people. Congratulations, that's 0.1% of the town that spoke out in support. In the abutting neighborhood, an outright majority opposes the project, and I'd wager that if you asked
the full population of town, a majority of them would oppose it as well. Between this project, the Dalton water fiasco, yet another one trying to impose on a neighborhood, the MBTA Act, and the Armstrong building, and the Beld site, residents are getting fed up and feel like they're losing their town. And continuing on the current path, you risk of waking a sleeping giant. Elections are in November. I know there's pressure on the board here, and I don't envy the position you're in, but I ask you, stand with the residents, show them that their voices matter. Do not continue to let the developers steamroll the town and make it unrecognizable. Braintree needs some defenders. It doesn't need more auctioneers. Be the defenders that this town needs. Thank you.
I'm not as tall as he is. Hi. My name is Stacy Fogarty. I live at 418 Elm Street, and I'm here to speak in favor of the project. I won't repeat what everybody has supported. People have covered a lot of things. I just want to say, as a person outside looking at the project and how it's gone through, they have jumped through so many hoops for us. They've gone through multiple revisions, time and again, and I just want to remind you, for some people, it will never be enough. For some people, it's simply never going to be okay for it to be there. And I hear time and again how apartments are not necessary, but we need apartments so bad. We need places for kids who are coming home from college to live so they're not in the basement. We need people to be able to downsize into those places. We need people to move in. I'll tell you my personal story. When we moved to Braintree 10 years ago, we went into Lenox Farms because it was the only place available. We literally moved out the month our lease expired. It took us that long to find a house. There's just not housing stock here. So I implore you to please take that seriously. I'm also a lawyer. I can answer some of our questions that we've gotten a little earlier, just off the cuff, not with specifics. Someone asked about liability. I'm actually an insurance lawyer. I do construction defect specialist, and I'm also a bodily injury specialist. And I can tell you one idea, if you're concerned. Usually those commercial general liability policies that cover that type of injury have endorsements on them. You can add yourselves as a scheduled additional insured. I encourage you to do that. It should already be on your permits, and so you should already be in under the industry standard forms. But feel free to ask for that. I encourage you to do that. What I might also say is 3,500 of 35,000 is 10%. But I also want to know what's on the roof, because that sounds amazing. I definitely want that. I want an apartment if there's going to be a rooftop bar up there. I love the idea of a shuttle. When I first moved to Boston 20 years ago, I lived in an apartment in the middle of Boston. I've lived in lots of much uglier apartments than this. And I love the idea of a shuttle, because my only target was South Bay Center, and I had to take a shuttle that was funded by that. So that's a great example, and maybe something to look forward to as an example. And I just want to, as my last comment, say, I know that we see the 558. It's now a little bit more because of other improvements that have been made. I don't just see the money. We have a severe deficit. We were talking about closing an entire elementary school over $400,000. This covers that. We're talking about letting go 11, 12 positions, not adding them, not filling them, over the deficit we had. So I see 558, 650. I don't see money. I see teachers. I see teachers we didn't have to let go. So I implore you, please. I see improvements to all of our buildings. Please approve this project. And then Valerie Blathis was here earlier, but she had to go. She has childcare. She has a brief statement, if it's okay with you for me to read.
If it's brief, I know we're...
I'll go fast.
Okay.
I talk fast. It's a lawyer thing. My name is, she didn't give me her address, but her kids go to Ross. My name is Valerie Blathis. I've lived in Braintree for 15 years. I have 2 children at Ross School. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I own small businesses in the town. Not long ago, I stood here fighting to keep our schools open. My kids' school was on the chopping block because the town couldn't afford to keep everything running. And here we are again, facing the same root issue. We don't have enough revenue. We don't have money for school maintenance. We don't have money to build new schools or invest in police or fire infrastructure. Our library was $156 away from losing its state accreditation. That's where we are financially. The town needs tax revenue, and we need development. I hear the opposition to every project, loud, emotional, and often grounded in financial realities, often not grounded in the financial realities we are facing. The truth is, no development that's ever come before this town has been welcomed with open arms. Rejecting growth while demanding high-quality services simply doesn't work. This is a place this is a place to live with minimal development and low taxes, and that's called rural America. It's the outer suburbs. And yes, in those areas you can have minimal traffic and no development, but that's not Braintree. We're 11 miles from Boston, and our needs are different. We are part of a larger metropolitan area, and we need to act like it. I support responsible development, because without it, we are headed towards deeper cuts, more school closures, and a town that can't support the people who live here. We cannot keep delaying these hard decisions. The longer we wait, the worse it gets. And I agree. Please approve the appeal, the application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sue Shulman. I live on Burroughs Road, which is off of Elm Street. I just want to make a comment. You know, everyone's touting that $500,000 is coming in tax revenue. How many lots did Simon Properties buy that they knocked down all the houses? Does anyone know?
There are two.
How many?
There are 2 lots as part of
No,
it.
there's 2 houses, but there used to be a whole development, because I'll tell you, when I was in college, I went to a few parties at those houses. And I know Simon Properties owned them because my friends were renting them. But there were a number of houses. That whole development, does anyone have any idea how many houses were there?
I don't know. Do you have any specific comments to this project?
Right.
All right. So,
Okay.
sorry, we
So
can't.
there were never any
BCAM's not
houses.
going to be able to pick it up, so.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
there were never any houses. Then
Yeah,
I
and
must
if
have
you have
gone
any
to the
specific
one
comments,
that
it
was
is-
still standing. But what I'm saying is how many buildable lots would have been on there that we could put a whole bunch of McMansions on there, so we wouldn't have to worry about the school systems. The tax revenue would come in, and when they're touting that $500,000 would come in, what would a bunch of those McMansions in the same property bring in? That's all I'm saying, because then you wouldn't affect the neighborhood. If you actually put good-sized houses, because people are willing to pay the price in Braintree, what kind of tax revenue could you get from, you know, over $1 million properties going in? And I know I'm kind of late in the game. I was just thinking about this, but I know I drove in there, and there's a lot. If you had broken it up into buildable lots, as I say, how many McMansions can you fit in there? And that would be good for Braintree. You'd get the tax revenue. And you wouldn't need a ladder truck that has to go up 4 stories. Although maybe with the McMansions you might. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, and I do want to wrap up public comment in the next couple speakers, so please come up. I'm not trying to cut you off, but I'm just saying we do have some other things on the agenda, and I know board members and other people have questions and want to be able to answer, so go ahead.
Cool, thanks. I'm Kara Slattery. I live at 97 Parkside Avenue. I'm also in the Flaherty neighborhood, walking distance to Flaherty Elementary. 2 kids in 3rd grade there. I've been following this project from this, I think the start of this round, mostly. I've been in the fight for, you know, Braintree revenue, you know, from the override and, you know, fighting for the teachers and fighting. You know, really just want the best for this town, whatever, at all costs. And I think everyone does, you know, regardless of what side you're on. My comments, I think, you know, from like more the last meeting, a lot of people were talking, the word I was hearing was harmonizing. I was just looking up, you know, being in my neighborhood, I drove around with my daughter, and we're defining the word harmonizing. To be suitable together, make different people, plans, situations, etc., suitable for each other. And we drove around our neighborhood. I live in a Cape Cod house. There's some Center Hall colonials. There's some modern houses. There's ranches. There's all different styles in our neighborhood. The mall is a completely different style. And I think the development as they have, you know, designed it is suitable, it's in harmony. It's not exactly what's in our neighborhood. It's not exactly what's the mall. It's not exactly what's across the street, but I think it does come together. And I think, what we are trying to do as a town is come together to make things suitable for each other, financially, suitable for our population, to make homes. We keep calling them units. I was at a meeting with CHAPA, and they kept saying, stop calling them units. We're not housing, we're not putting people in containers. These are homes for people. And we keep forgetting about that. We're taking away the aspect that people are going to live here. There are some people in my neighborhood, they're just outside the walking distance to Flaherty Elementary. And what they have to pay in busing to get their kids to that school is ridiculous. And what they're paying in their rents to move over there to be in walking distance and not pay for those buses, maybe that would be an option. But I rented in Braintree for 3 years before I bought a home. And it was fantastic. I got to do a little shopping before I paid my mortgage. And, we're going to fight again for another, budget and potentially override, who knows? But we're going to be fighting for the teachers. We're going to be fighting for the police and the fire and DPW. We're going to be on this fight for year after year. And here's an opportunity to just chip away at it a little bit. And I know a lot of people who are opposing this were up for Topgolf. And if that wasn't harmonized, not harmonizing with the neighborhood, I don't know what was. But, this is, we got to pick our battles. And I think this is fantastic. I think this is a great opportunity to do something that is harmonizing for the entire town. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Toma. What I'm wondering first and foremost is, you gave Tim Fox you gave him a pass. You asked him to give you a plan, and he gave you a hem and a haw. Number two, the plaza hasn't kept up their property in years, and it's cost the town millions of dollars in tax revenue. Are you really going to give them a pass? Number three, would you partner with them? They have an unusable lot, and you want to partner with them so they can sell it, so Zom can make some money and leave? And number four, how many times are we going to listen to the counselor lecture us on what's wrong with the town? We all know what's wrong with the town. We don't have any money. And the reason why we don't have any money is because the town doesn't know how to maintain what we have with what we have. We need to start doing that instead of listening to lectures. And we're so desperate for money. I asked them the last planning board meeting if their project would stand on its own if the mall went belly up. I didn't get an answer. You should consider those things. And those people don't want it in their neighborhood. There's other ways to get money in this town and not guarantee permanent gridlock for traffic. There's got to be a better way. And there's a lot of stuff that's being glossed over. When the Armstrong Cork thing comes through, that entire corridor by the MBTA, you want to build housing, put it down in Grossman Drive. It won't bother anybody down there. Why? How come anybody is not considering that point of view? I told this guy I want to see him built, but not there. The traffic there, what's he going to do, give you a peer study? What are you going to do when it comes back and you guys approve it? And then it's gridlock. There's no buyer's remorse from that. There's none, okay? I love the town. I've been here 60 years. My family came to this town 73 years ago, okay? I love the town. I want what's best for the town. The problem is we need money, and you're so desperate to get it, you're willing to partner with anybody. You need to rethink that. If there's not enough money, raise the taxes. Ask the mayor if she's going to override again, because you're still $10 million in deficit, and it's not coming from this. You're never going to see money from this. If you do, it's going to be for 3 years, and it's going to be a pittance. The thing about the schools, the last override wasn't for the schools. It was to shore up a bond rating. The mayor said that in her meeting in front of everybody on that video. Check it out. I had an idea that's what she did. What is she doing? Her first time in front of all of us, and she lied. What kind of trust is that for all of us to believe in her and anything that she intends on doing? We need to be together as a town. The mayor of the town can't lie to us, and the town council can't go along with everything she proposes, because in that moment of trust, she let us all down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth Maglio, I live on Glen Rose Ave. I'm also the town councilor for District 3. I sent in testimony, and I know you received it, so I'm not going to repeat it, but I do just want to respond, and I want to thank everybody for being here, but I do want to respond to what was said just before and what I've heard over time, and that is in terms of the importance of growth. And all I'm going to say is we've been at budget meetings almost every night in May. So we were just up there talking about the police budget, the fire budget. Last night it was the DPW budget and the stormwater. And we are facing really serious, dire consequences. And we can list mismanagement. There's a lot of things that could be listed, but we right now have a new administration. We have a town council that's very actively engaged and involved. We have somebody who has stayed at the table now for almost 3 years, and we have an opportunity to turn a depressed, dirty area into a beautiful home for the people who choose to live there. This isn't going to solve everything in Braintree, and really, it's not about the 500,000 if you ask me. It's about the overall growth of this part of our town. And yeah, we need to have traffic. I think, I don't know where you moved to, but you are right. We need to look at things like traffic calming. We need to look at gridlock. We need to look at all of those things. We need to look at those things, though, regardless of whether this or any other development happens, because this is about quality of life for people. And in order to address these issues, we need funding in our budget in order to have the proper staffing and the tools and the expertise in order to make this a beautiful town with a where people don't just get stuck in traffic, or where traffic is a reason to stop growth, because I just don't think that is a real balance there. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I definitely invite you, Rob, there you are. You've said you come up here and you're very passionate about things, and I would love your passion at our budget meetings, because you could help a lot there. So please, we won't throw you out. We welcome you in. They are public, open meetings. And anyone else who's really interested in the big picture, because this is about a big picture. It's about housing, it's about homes and streets and nature and the environment and clean water and all the kinds of things that make a town vibrant and enjoyable and lovely and safe for all of us. So I just wanted to offer those kinds of comments, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Councilor Maglio. All right, and last item here, and then we're going to move on to some of the board
Hi, my
questions.
name is Ginger Grandi. I live on Wilkins Road in East Braintree. My family was a former owner of this property, and we would love to see it grow and be a suitable and homes for people, knowing that I live there with no running water, no electricity, and it was a farm area. So I would love to see this, and I thank you, Zom, for having the opportunity to see it grow and to be more equitable for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and thank you all for your comments, and at both here tonight, prior meetings, in writing. We do appreciate them. I know not everybody is going to always agree with the same aspects of it, but we do appreciate the feedback. And I'm just going to turn now to some of the questions from the board and give the applicant an opportunity to respond both to the questions and to anything tonight that's an open question that you want to respond to. But I'm going to turn to the board comments first. Member McCamey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad to see that the balconies are being removed. My question is, will there be balconies in other apartments not facing the school?
Yes, definitely. We'll have balconies, especially facing the water, especially larger units, but even, and especially in the courtyards. Those are kind of the popular aspects of a building that require balconies.
Okay.
Not every unit.
And while I have you up there,
Sure.
will there be a direct route for the residents to go to the plaza? A direct and safe route? Is it going to be a sidewalk? I mean,
Yeah,
a sidewalk or crosswalk? Or?
There's sidewalks and crosswalks
Okay.
on the drawing. Sidewalks on our property. There's sidewalks on the mall property as well. Crosswalks to get over South Shore Plaza Road.
Okay.
And, yeah.
One main route to walk over there, or are there going to be a couple?
I would say people go where they want to go.
Sure.
Yeah, but we will have a route.
Okay.
But there'll be multiple routes. So.
Got it.
Yeah.
And are you planning signs at all?
Signage, wayfinding signage? Or, I'm sorry, for the property?
Yeah,
Yes.
just generally speaking,
Yes.
what kind of signs are you going to have?
We talked with the planning department about the requirements, and that's in the PUD as well, and we'll stick within those zones. Probably a monument sign up on the mall property as well, and probably a building blade sign at our entrance, so people know where to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate the mitigation package that was put together. There's some, I think the police are going to love those new cameras.
They are impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're probably going to need them. My question is, you may not know this offhand, but since you've been involved, will the update in the sewer relieve all the issues that we've heard from some of the residents?
Well, that's a pretty complicated question.
Okay.
What we're doing is replacing a pump. There's more than one.
Yep.
We're replacing a grinder. There's two. And my understanding is that the pump station functions now and really only has issues when there are storms, storm watering getting into the system. And that this pump and grinder replacement will drastically improve the operation of the Common Street pump station.
Okay. So we really don't know whether it's going to fix everything.
It will handle anything I put into it because it's really only 2.5% of the capacity of the
Right.
station, plus some. So my understanding is there are other things, long-term things that need to be done, especially related to the stormwater infiltration. But as far as sewer and our addition to it, what we're doing more than compensates for it.
Great. Okay. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. Member Kent?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. If this is approved, I have a couple of questions about how long does the construction take? When would it start? And particularly, how do you work around the school and noise and mitigation around that?
Well, we'll get into the details of the construction agreement with the planning department and the building department and get into details of that. But schedule-wise, we are attempting to get to construction start by the first quarter of 26. And in round numbers, it's a 2-year construction schedule. So that's the year of 26 and late in 27, apartments will start delivering about 22 months into that 24-month project. And it takes about a year to stabilize an apartment project.
And thank you. And around the noise of construction activity, is there any mitigating steps or procedures so that the school would be somewhat?
It's really, in a nutshell, is containing the operation on the site. so that it doesn't spill over the site. And containing the work time work, and meaning not starting early, not working late, controlling different aspects of it like that, and communication is really the biggest thing. We'll have a person on site every day in our agreement, a person's phone number that people can have access to and can call if there's an issue. Things do go wrong, but as long as there's communication and a person there to correct it, it usually, we don't really have very many issues with neighborhoods on our projects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Member Conley?
Thank you. I had a couple of questions related to the conditions. Related to condition 29, which is pest control. I'd like to see it added in similar to number 52, where the applicant would provide a public point of contact advertised at the site and hold records relative to complaints and the action taken for the pest control. And then on number 50, the truck routes, I'd like to include the approval to extend it to police, fire, and the DPW for the approval of the truck routes being used. And my questions for the development team are related to the shuttle service. And I wanted to review what the threshold was related to low ridership and it being discontinued.
I think maybe Connor and I need to get into the language of that. But in my opinion, a shuttle service is not really needed, especially at a site or a location where there's a bus stop that whether it's 26 minutes or 36 minutes that gets you to a T station. That is rare to have, and it's something we seek out in a lot of locations, to either be at the T station or on a bus route that gets to the T station. So my whole point with the shuttle is that if our residents don't use it, therefore don't want it, and it's not needed, we shouldn't be doing it.
Thank you. And then I did have a question for staff related to the gate study and painting the gate black. I know that it would only be used for emergencies, but is there any concern of someone who would attempt to access there and at night perhaps run into it?
Can I say something? I just decided to paint it black. It can be whatever color you want. I just thought it might go away. But your point is, if it goes away, someone might drive into it. It's totally, pick a color. And we can paint it.
DPW and the fire and police departments to make sure that it's safe.
Okay.
I think jumping in my mind is just
Yellow.
reflective tape, there's yellow, there's X, Y, or Z, right? Whatever that lands, obviously the gate's there and it's gonna be remaining for emergency access. So
Thank you.
I can work further into that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Kane?
Yeah, I've been keeping some notes here as we've gone along. A lot of them have already been covered by the board. I think just two things that I heard from the audience that were concerns and were, one, the construction fencing, which I assume can be manipulated to be off the property, or off the circle to allow flow for traffic.
I don't, that was Justine, I think, who was talking about, I have no idea what fence she's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there is a fence, it won't be an issue.
Yeah, I think so
Okay.
I looked, I didn't see this when she was talking. I think what happened is the work area that's
Oh, just
depicted on the plan looks like a fence. And so I think that was the confusion,
Okay.
that there's not actually a fence there, but it's the outline
Right.
of the work area.
Yeah, sorry for that.
Okay, even if it says it, what I'm hearing though is that it would be amended and we're not going to impact traffic flow patterns.
Yeah.
Right.
No, the fence contains work on site, so it's like literally on the line.
Okay.
and won't be going across the road or into the circle or even across the sidewalk next to the circle or anything like that.
Okay. And then I think Jen's already brought up the rodent deterrent. We heard a fellow civil engineer talk about the vegetation encroachment on the dam, valid point. And then I think that was about it. And I think Kim, they talked about the shuttle, so nothing else for me.
All right, thank you very much. Member Kinahan?
Thank you. Could you just address the rooftop concerns that were brought up?
Oh, sure. We showed a rooftop plan with screening for the mechanicals. There's no occupiable space on the roof. Mechanicals are just like a home condenser unit that leads down to the unit. And again, in my opinion, a screening is not needed. You will not see these small units placed in the middle of the roof. But we've committed to putting screening just as a secondary use. But there's no occupiable space, I think, is what people were worried about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nothing additional.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Member Kane.
If I can just ask one question to you. This is a residential building, but it's a commercial property. So this would be taxed at a commercial rate, which is twice the residential rate. Is that correct? Or am I incorrect?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm willing to bet I'm correct.
Yeah. Or at least I think I know, but I don't know well enough to say
Okay.
one or another.
Sorry to put you on the spot there, but my guess is that. And that's just good. I was just doing some numbers over here. If we're like, if we're 18 million in the hole and there's like 14,000 residences, it's like an additional like $1,300 in taxes per household just to cover this year's expenses. And that we tax at a 0.01 times, or $10 per $1,000 for residential, $21 per thousand for commercial. So every commercial property, as like an apartment, is getting us 2 times the residential, or the cash back that we would get if we put houses on this lot, just regular houses. Yes. I'm positive. That's why I've been on my phone over here doing math. I'm not positive of that. But if it's not a commercial property and it is residential, which I could be wrong on, yeah, the dollars per square foot, that $140 million property, you would have to build a castle, yeah, to be a 100 million.
I mean, I think so the fiscal impact analysis does lay out the actual tax income, and then it subtracts
Which is
out
plus 500,
what's the expected town services, and that's how they get to the 500,000.
Right, exactly.
So I can't remember what the numbers are on the top and the bottom that come out there, but that is part of the fiscal impact report. Yes. Yeah. Okay, if you want to come up real quick. Yes. Just wait until you get to the microphone, just so that it's more clear for people watching.
The point of information is allowed by Robert's rules. In regards to the runoff, the capacity of the sewer location, it was mentioned that it was runoff. There's more than 2.5% of pavement that's being removed here, so the runoff should not be a problem. As far as noise goes, it's dictated by a town bylaw as to what the maximum allowable noise is at the perimeter of the property. So that should answer that question for you. And all I ask is, please, could you move the question? This has been a long, arduous thing, and it looks like the developer has done everything you've asked.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah,
Please,
and the
could you
applicant
move the
will have
question?
a chance to respond, but thank you. Okay, all right, so just making sure that we cross everything off. I had a couple other questions that came up. You've answered a lot of them. Some of the other member questions have answered them. I do appreciate all of the information that has gone into this and the response to the community. Some of the conditions, they've been updated. We got an updated report today that had some of the back and forth on it. One of the things, which I mentioned earlier with Simon, was just making sure as part of this permit also that it references that the easement agreement, and having the town have an ability to take a look at that through the planning department. Mainly just to make sure that the off-site work is that that's all put into place, that whoever's doing it, somebody's going to do it the way that it needs to be done. There have been a lot of questions about the construction logistics. I know that we do have condition 50 that talks about meeting with the appropriate town staff to make sure that that construction process is put into place. What I would suggest is to add a 50A, that once the plan is in place and everybody's comfortable from a town perspective, applicant perspective on what that looks like, that you hold a community meeting to let the community know what that looks like and to get any feedback to see if any of those can be addressed. And maybe it might be that some of the concerns with the logistics are already addressed, but I think that would be helpful. I mentioned it when Simon was up, but there is a lot of ways, as Mr. Dunlap said, to get from the apartments to the mall. It seems most likely, if it's not busy, somebody's just going to walk across the parking lot, in which case you can't really do much. But if they choose to take the sidewalks, I would like to add a condition that the crosswalk between the 99 parking lot and the corner of the garage, which seems the most logical sidewalk route, be evaluated to see if there should be safety upgrades. I'm not going to sit up here and say I know what is right for that intersection, but I think that if people are using that, then there should be some upgrades to make sure that it's safe. The shuttle, so the language, and Mr. Dunlap, you mentioned this about talking after the fact to make sure the language meets the fact. I don't necessarily have a problem if people aren't using the shuttle. There's no reason to continue something that's not being used. I know I have one that goes to my office park and nobody ever uses it. But I will say that I just want to make sure that the apartments are fully occupied. You said it takes about a year to stabilize, to make sure that decision isn't made before it's stabilized and people have a chance to figure out their patterns. So I'd like to see that in the condition language, that there's some benchmark for giving people a chance to use it before we make a decision to take it away. And that is all that I have on my end. Yes, Assistant Director Murphy, after some of the comments, do you have anything else that you want to add at this point?
Not to get into 41A, which discusses the shuttle. It's mentioned in the first sentence that they would do an annual survey of the residents.
Okay.
So every year they're going to go out to their tenants and ask, hey, do you want the shuttle or do you not, amongst other things that they would provide at the property.
Okay, okay, so that sounds like that's already covered. Okay. All right. And applicant, do you have anything that you feel the need to respond to at this point? And if you don't, that's okay. Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, I will be looking for motion to enter the correspondence list into the record. We did have a correspondence list provided today that I believe includes many letters that came in today. It looks like it does. So I'll be looking for a motion to add the correspondence into the record.
So move.
We have a motion by Member Kent. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'll be looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Member Kane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Member Kent. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then let's be looking for a motion on the application itself that's before us.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion for positive endorsement of Planning Board File 2502 with the conditions and the additional conditions as presented.
All right, we have a motion by Member McCamey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Do you guys want me to take a break or just roll right into the next one? You good to roll? Keep rolling on? Okay.
I think we're going to get a natural.
Right, yeah, true. All right, and I'm just going to ask, because we do have other things on the agenda that if people want to continue talking, that they just move out in the hallway. All right, thanks. There we go.
did a hell of a job. Sorry I put it in, but, you know.
That's right, yeah, no.
Having
Thanks
been
for the
very familiar with the area.
Yeah.
And I've sat in your position for a long time. This is one of those hot ones where, you know, it basically became a distant job. And, you know, the other option, as I said many, I don't know, it must have been 2 years ago, either we go forward with this, or we go to a 40B and you're screwed. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
But no, you did a very good job, you know. Oh, sorry, Melissa's gone.
Yeah.
I actually used to sign her payroll, that's how long ago
Wow.
I was on the board.
Bye, Denver. Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
And a mayor type of government.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Well,
But
we've
even I was a kid. So.
All right.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Thank you. It's proof. Moving forward. Yeah. So we're, yeah. And so we've got. Let's ask again if people are still in the room to just move into the hallway so that we can move on to our next item on the agenda. All right. Tell you after. All right, we're just gonna, just 1 minute, everyone. Thank you. We're just gonna take a 2-minute recess, so we'll be back. Actually, if you could just ignore what I just said, where I think we're ready to go. So, right, that's right. All right. Okay, so. Okay. All right. Without further ado, the next item on our agenda is a new public hearing for 884 Washington Street, Planning Board File 2503. And if you could please read the public notice into the record.
All right, thank you so much. To open the public hearing, notice is given by the planning board under the provisions of MGL Chapter 48, Section 9 and 11, and the Braintree zoning bylaw, Chapter 35, Articles 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, and 14, that a public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025 at 7:15 p.m. in the Braintree Town Hall. The planning board will consider the application for a special permit, commercial recreation in Village Overlay District, and site plan review filed by Edward P. Champy? Okay. Applicant. The applicant's project involves construction of a 5,875 square foot second story addition with a 550 square foot covered deck for uses including retail, restaurant, and commercial recreation. The project also includes improvements to the site's landscaping, parking, and utilities. The property is located at 884 Washington Street, is zoned General Business District, and within the Village Overlay District, shown on the Braintree Assessor's Map 1006 as Plot 004, with a land area of 19,887 square feet. To review application, Department of the Planning and Community Development at Town Hall, 1 JFK Memorial Drive on Monday, blah, blah, blah. And that is going to be the end of the public record, because
Okay.
that was just the minutia.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you. And with that, I will turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Attorney Derek Small. I have a business address of 51 Dobson Road in Braintree. With me as part of our development team today, we have Principal Mr. Ed Champy. We have our architect, Mr. Eric Luciano.
Oh, sorry. Could you pull the microphone closer so they can pick it up on the TV? Thank you.
Would you like me to start over, or?
No, I think we're good. Yeah, thank you.
So with us again are members of the development team, Mr. Ed Champy, who's the principal, Mr. Eric Luciano, who is the architect, Mr. Jim Burke, who is the engineer, and Mr. Armando Gonzalez, who is a consultant on the project. We are here today seeking relief and approval in the form of a special permit and site plan review for our development project at 884 Washington Street, where we are seeking to add a second-story addition to the existing building for a restaurant, retail, and commercial recreation use. I'll stop there and I'll turn it over, and Eric can come up and go over the plan, and then we can have Jim go through the engineering portion of it, the site plan. Eric?
Eric Luciano, 77 Forest Street, Manchester, Mass. Just a quick overview of the project. We are placing most of the entry to the units. As you can see, sorry. This view is of Washington Street, and when we have the parking lot is pretty much the full view that we're seeing to the side. So we're putting most of the entries on the parking lot side, activating the street on Washington Street. Holbrook, which is not shown on this, would have minor activation at the corner with some windows, but primarily as you go back towards the residential area, that would minimize along that facade. We're also looking at some street activation on the second floor with the restaurant component going to that story as well. And then the other retail component in the back would have windows that faced on the parking lot side and rear of the building, and also the Holbrook Street side. Just a quick rundown of the plan. We have added some greenery to the space. There's 2 dedicated green spaces that we're adding, pretty much to maximize parking there wasn't as much left as we needed. So basically, we put as much as we could in the corners of the spaces, and then throughout this space, we also added planters that would be permanently there, but could change seasonally. There's planters also at the fence facade, where that would be the loading area, and then planters would also be at the outdoor dining patio side. We need to go through the floors? Yeah. Let's quickly run through the floors. So on the, I guess, basement level doesn't really, basement is mostly just storage and common space. On the main level, you can see the entry on the parking lot side. So the restaurant entry would be at the corner.
And just, if you could just take the microphone with you if you keep
Yeah.
going back. Thank you.
Restaurant entry would be at the corner out towards Washington Street in the parking lot. And then the second floor entry would also be on that level as well. This whole plaza portion would be an accessible entry. So the street portion, the building, the whole parking lot slopes down as we go, but this would all be raised so that we could have entry along the entire portion for the building. And then there's an elevator and a entry lobby on that side as well. And then upstairs we have the restaurant portion in the front, again to activate the street side, and the other retail spaces would be in the back.
Should we want to go with the site plan? You want to go with the site plan? I'll take this one down. And I'll put yours up.
All right, 1 second. Good evening. My name is Jim Burke. I am a registered civil engineer here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I work for DeSalle Burke Sala, and our offices are in Quincy. And we're working today to assist on the redevelopment of 884 Washington Street in South Braintree Square, which, I'm very familiar with. It's been dated since the 70s, but the CVS there's sits on 19,000, do you have the wrong ones? Wrong ones. Sits on 19,887 square feet. And it grades from Washington Street down to the rear corner of Holbrook, about from elevation 112 to 108. And those grades aren't proposed to change. Footprint's going to remain the same. We're going to put a new pavement, new parking lot in. Also with additional, all the utilities, water, sewer, drainage also will be new. The stormwater is probably the biggest improvement proposed. You have none on it right now, and we're going to be putting in some recharge facilities for the roof runoff, and which is going to reduce the runoff on the site, improve water quality. We're also adding landscaping, which also helps with the stormwater control. The parking spaces also we've increased just through management of the spaces themselves on the lot. But overall, I think it's an opportunity to take a kind of an old lot and kind of bring it up to current standards. And if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and,
We'd be happy to answer any questions that the board members may have.
all right, thank you very much. And I know we have a staff report on this from Assistant Director Murphy, I believe, although I just lost it, so.
Yeah, if I could
Take it down.
quickly, through the chair to the rest of the board, we've worked with this applicant for probably several months now, between Mr. Champy and his team. And we've gone through different, I would say, proposals for this property. It started with salon and restaurant, and then it molded to keeping some retail, adding the restaurant, adding the second story, and then just more recently, I think within the past 2 or 3 months, we talked about adding the Pilates studio to the back of the second floor. So they've been incredibly responsive in working with our department. Just to summarize a few things, they went to the Zoning Board of Appeals for relief. They had to go to relief for some lot coverage and open space ratios. They were improving the situation, but it still required variances. And then the required parking for this development was, I believe off the top of my head, 82 spaces. And what you see on the site is what you get. The Zoning Board of Appeals did grant the variance for 32 spaces out of the 82. They are showing those 32 spaces on the site plan today. Their proposal as it relates to the planning board application, it's 2 special permits and site plan review. It's a special permit for development within the Village Overlay District, which requires the planning board waive dimensional criteria under the Village Overlay District. In addition to that, special permit for the commercial recreation use. The Pilates fits the commercial recreation definition. And then on top of that, site plan review. Staff has reviewed the materials. Those are in compliance with our different criteria. And on top of that, we've prepared draft findings and conditions for this request.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and this is a public meeting. If there is anyone with any questions or comments on 884 Washington Street, please come up, give your name and address.
My name is Susan Schallman. I live on Burroughs Road in Braintree. I'm coming to this, I think, late in the game. I just happened to see the picture. Although I think it's wonderful, the design is wonderful, the architect did a great job, except...
I'm sorry, could you turn around to the microphone?
I'm sorry. I said I think the architect, it's a beautiful design, except I don't think the design really works into Braintree. I think we have a wonderful opportunity right now. We have the Braintree Historical District right here, and it ends, I think, I don't know if it includes the church, but it ends maybe at the library or so. It would be a great opportunity to get the design so that it expands the look of the historical district. It doesn't mean it has to be in the historical district, but if the design reflects that, it would only be good for South Braintree Square. I think that what I always say is, look at what Hingham does. Look what Cohasset does. Cohasset has a village. Hingham Center. You have to get approval for a lot of things. So if the people who have this site, if they can help us in the design moving forward of South Braintree Square, that would be really, I think it would be a good opportunity for us to take advantage of it now, rather than, okay, it's here and now we got to work with it. As I said, the building design is great, but I'm not so sure it belongs in South Braintree Square, just the way it is. So that's my piece. I have a background in design, so aesthetics kill me. When I see so many things in Braintree blue, it kills me. I live across the street from a park. I went to every single meeting and said, please do not give us blue equipment diagonally across from my house. I said it needs to blend in with the forest, just like Collis, just like Faxon Park, just like the Tufts Library. What came to what got delivered was Braintree blue equipment, and then I came down to Town Hall and I said, please do not make the half basketball court Braintree blue. And I come around the corner one day and it's Braintree blue. So I don't know how I can be involved so that in this project, we really help South Braintree Square expand the footprint of what you see when you come up from Washington Street, and this is Braintree. So there's my piece.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else with any comments?
Hi, Paul O'Brien, 130 Franklin Street. I just had a question. I don't think it's your board that does this, but I'd mention it at the zoning board. That the Massachusetts general law is there's not supposed to be a alcohol within 500 feet of a house of worship. So I just want to throw that out there again for consideration. I am against this project.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments, questions on this application? No? Okay. Turn to member comments. Member McCamey?
Thank you. So the plan is to take down the existing structure.
No, the
No.
existing structure will remain, and we're doing a second-story addition on top.
Okay. I have to say I hadn't really thought about it, but the previous speaker, in terms of the design and everything, I mean, it looks cool, but I think there's some validity to her point. So just something to consider. Also would like to know, maybe this is a question for the staff, what looks like there's 3 retail spaces here. What is permitted and not permitted? Is it virtually anything?
If I could respond through the chair to member McCamey, it's not everything's permitted. We have a use table. There's things permitted as of right, by special permit, and not allowed. The restaurant and retail are permitted as of right in the general business zone. And then the commercial recreation is a special permit in the general business zone. So if I kind of see where your question's going here, could they fill it with another by right use that's not mentioned here today?
Right.
Yes, they could. However, they would have to comply with the parking requirements.
Okay. It's just, you know, the same situation at 125 Union.
Correct.
You know, we just don't know what's going in there. Do you have a potential tenant to be the restaurant?
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Ed Champy. I live at 4 Pagos Way, Linfield, Massachusetts. So we've talked to 3 or 4 different restaurant groups, all of which have multiple locations, none of which are what you'd consider a chain. The goal being that it's kind of Americana or there's, without mentioning the names, most of these restaurants have locations from here through the North Shore of Boston. There's been a variation of what their goals are. Some, you know, the upstairs is, I think, a big selling point in the front of the second floor. And then it's just a matter of how much of the first floor they want to take for the kitchen and the seating in the front of the space. So we've had great interest on that. The Pilates studio, there's actually a brand that's already seeking it. We had a letter of intent. We haven't signed anything yet, of course, because we're going through the process, but there's a specific entity, and that's why the special permit, you wouldn't normally go for it if you didn't have a tenant, and in that case, we think we do. The other space, it's going to be a matter of how the restaurant lays out, and the remaining spaces will be occupied, whether it's upstairs for expanding the restaurant, or in the first floor, we have some opportunity if a restaurant doesn't want the rear of the building. We currently have an opportunity with a tenant that does a small provision store, where so we've got a few tenants in mind.
Okay.
The site is well thought of, so I think there were other restaurants trying to get it even when we tried to acquire it. So
That's a darn big bar you have here. Might be the biggest bar in Braintree. The layout.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not a restaurant designer, but Eric's done 30 or 40 of them, so I'll rely on him for that.
Just
but I
saying,
promise not to
just
paint it
saying.
blue.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have two different restaurants, you know, one on the first floor and one on the second?
No, I don't anticipate that
Okay,
at all.
okay. And when you say that, you know, these are the types of things that, you know, we've had other projects where we just don't know kind of where it's going. And, you know, if they don't want this space, we could convert it into this. This is, you know, we'd like to have some certainty. And we understand, you know, there's things going on. That's why I asked the question about what kind of tenants can go in there.
Yeah.
And we have other situations where, you know, we don't know who the tenants are going to be yet. So obviously that is going to impact your parking, right?
Well, we are certain that it will be a restaurant.
Yeah,
we
and a Pilates potentially.
Yeah, and we committed to our neighbors that we would not open a salon space in there, which we own multiple salons now. So we have hundreds of stylists working for us. We originally bought the space to make the whole thing into that. And after working with the town and the administrative groups and knowing a lot of restaurateurs that we do know, we planned this site for something other than we originally planned, just for the simple fact that we thought it would be a better fit for the town. So
Okay.
we spent a year working on a project that we don't plan on occupying ourselves, which is not something we normally do. So hopefully that gesture sends to you that we don't plan on occupying it with tenants that are contrary to what the town's looking for.
Yeah, there are a lot of salons in that area.
Yeah, and which you know, there's no better place to open a
I don't
salon
go
than
to
around
any
a
of
lot
them,
of
but
salons. Yeah,
there
I mean,
are-
listen,
there are
I'm
a
not
lot
into
of
that
them.
often either.
Yeah.
I just build them, right? So,
Yeah.
but we, just so you're aware, we have no intention of varying from the restaurant use. It's just some restaurants are saying they want all on one floor, a small amount of upstairs, and we're trying not to pigeonhole ourselves so that we can get the best tenant we can.
Sure.
But it's the primary goal of the space is restaurant use, and to be honest, not many other uses can afford the space.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't allow for very
No,
many uses.
that would be great. And I'm going to ask the Assistant Director Murphy, did you say that they need a parking variance? Do they have enough spaces?
They had to go before the zoning board of appeals for a parking variance, and they were granted.
And they got that?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So how many spaces will they have?
32
32.
parking spaces throughout the site, yep.
Okay. That's going to be a challenge.
It is in the sense that, and what we did do is we went and spoke with some neighbors, and we've reached agreements with some of the neighbors where we can use parking off hours in their locations, one of which is across the street at Salon Verde, and they talked about allowing us to use 8 to 10 spaces off hours. We also talked to South Shore Bank, which committed to 10 to 12 spaces. I'm reading, I apologize, because I don't want to misquote. And last was Joanne Smigliani. She's an adjacent neighbor off of Holbrook where she said off hours. So when we've come down here and for a couple of these meetings, I think it's been about a little over a year that we've been working with the town. When it's after 4 or 5 o'clock, it's not hard to find parking on the streets around here. In fact, if you go outside now, I'd venture to guess you could walk through every parking street from here to CVS and there'd be nobody in it. So we find that the hours that the restaurant will be operational, we think that there's not only great street parking, but with some of the neighbors that we've worked with, they've all assured us that they'll have openings for us as well.
Okay. And I appreciate, you know, just looking at your draft elevation plans here. I appreciate some of the greenery that you're trying to put in there. That's important. So,
Thank you.
That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, excuse me, sir, the camera, it's very distracting. The meeting is available on BCam on YouTube and now and after, so it's really distracting to try to focus. Thank you. Okay, Member Kent?
Yeah, just sort of picking up where Member McCamey left off. If you are as successful as you are ambitious, 50 spaces seems to be a lot to find parking for. So I think I heard the church across the street and...
Not the church, sir. Not the church. It's the Salon Verde across the street.
Oh, okay.
Our neighbor on Holbrook and South Shore Bank are 3 that committed. to allowing us to use their spaces.
Okay.
And then if you go down Holbrook, there's some more, there's some public spaces down, further down Holbrook. We've kind of done a parking study throughout the whole area.
All right, well, the zoning board got comfortable with that, so I'll,
Yes, they did.
yep, okay, thanks.
Member Conley?
Thank you. This looks like a tremendous project, in particular bringing an independent restaurant to Braintree. The design concept as a standalone is very well thought, but I would like to see agreement with the character of Braintree Square. And then a question for staff to clarify related to the church and the possible incompatible use with like the liquor license within the range the gentleman had addressed. Could you give us some information or background on that?
Yes, I can. To the best of my knowledge, there's already a liquor license granted at this location for a different venture. I'm unsure if the applicant today has gone and applied for a transfer license from that current manager. There was already a liquor license granted for another entity, so I imagine they'll either transfer or they'll apply for a new liquor license and go through that process with the Board of License Commissioners.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Kane?
No objections. No comment.
All right, thank you. Member Kinahan?
Nothing else, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And my only question came up was the same as Member Conley's. I don't know if you're closely tied to that white or if we could have a color that fits a little bit better with what's there. I'm not sure that that's anything that needs to be finalized right this second, but I think just keeping an eye on that would be
We
great.
can certainly study it, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, I guess we'll be looking for a motion to enter correspondence, the correspondence list
So
with
moved.
correspond.
So moved.
All right, and we have a motion by Member Kane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, be looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Member Kane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then we'll be looking for a motion on the application itself. Which I can. Do you want me to?
I move to accept the application and as presented.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Member Kent. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Support of your day.
Thank you. You too. All right. The next item on our agenda is 173, 179 Pearl Street, Planning Board File 9323. If you could just please read the public notice into the record. Thank you, Assistant Director Murphy. All right, and with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, Chair Crowhop, members of the Planning Board, Frank Marinelli, and I'm here on behalf of Pearl Plaza Realty Trust, which is affiliated with FX Messina Enterprises. Joe Harnan, the COO of Messina, is here with me, along with Brandon Lee, who is the civil engineer from Kelly Engineering. So as Connor has presented in the staff report, what we are proposing is an amendment to major modification to 9323, and specifically back then in 93 there was a 3,082 square foot building that was approved for Burger King, and there was another 4,080 square foot building where Tennessee Barbecue and Subway and the nail salon are located, was approved as a retail building. So 2 buildings. We're going to proposing to take down the Burger King building and build a smaller Chipotle pad. The Chipotle pad will be 2,400 square feet as opposed to the Burger King, which is now 3,082. And the major modification on the retail building is to simply eliminate the condition that provided that that was a retail building, because the market demand turns out to be fast food. It was parked appropriately for the uses that are in there, Tennessee and Subway and the nail salon. So it's a recharacterization of that building. And in order to do that, the minor modification that you have before you as well, we put 8 of the parking spaces on the adjacent Pearl Plaza property. And we need 727 total spaces, and that's attached in the parking schedule that you have. So that's the project. It's pretty straightforward, with a great improvement, you know, replacing Burger King and a vacant building with a new building and a smaller one, and a great product in Chipotle.
All right, thank you very much.
And we're happy to answer any questions. Brandon on the site or Joe on the operation.
Great, thank you. And Assistant Director Murphy, I know we have a staff report. Go over a part of the background on that.
Yes, this request is in 2 parts. It reflects the application submitted in addition to the minor modification request. In short, because they're taking the building down and they're rebuilding it, it's subject to site plan review, which triggered the major modification. Upon looking through the prior decision, staff at the time found that there were some conditions that conflict with day-to-day operations. And I'd like to highlight one of those, which is condition 50 under the prior decision. It's basically asking the applicant, every time they change a tenant, they have to come back to the planning board and report it and seek approval. There's by right uses in there. That's not needed. The only thing is zoning compliance, which the applicant is able to demonstrate, and that brings me to the minor modification request. The site as it's designed today can't expand. They can't add parking. And with the inclusion of the 2 fast food tenants in the retail building, the Tennessee's Barbecue and the Subway, that increased their parking requirement from retail. They're required to provide 7 more parking spaces. Luckily, they own a shopping plaza next door with hundreds of spaces. So the modification request is going to be taking 7 of those parking spaces away from Shaw's Plaza, granting an easement to the current parcel, so that way they conform with the zoning requirements.
Okay, thank you. Yep. All right. And this is a public hearing. Is anyone here on 173, 179 Pearl Street, Planning Board File 9323? State your name and address again so we have it in the minutes.
Sue Shellman. My address is Burrows Road in Braintree. Again, new construction. We should take a look at the style of the building. Chipotle is, the building is very modern. I'm not saying it looks beautiful over at Shaw's and all around there, but the time is now when there's new construction to take that into consideration. And again, I know, you know, these chains have their looks, but if you go to certain towns like Hingham, Cohasset, Duxbury. Dunkin' Donuts does not look the same down there than it does up here. So, again, new construction, we should take into consideration the aesthetics of the town. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Member McCamey, any questions, comments?
Thank you. Again, I think there's some validity to what the previous speaker was just saying. So, Mr. Marinelli, will there be a drive-through at this location, and then how many seats will there be in the restaurant?
There's a pickup window.
Okay.
Right, is that?
It is not.
Yeah.
No, you have to come to the mic, ma'am.
I'm Kathy McVeigh. I'm a director with Chipotle. I live in Hingham, actually. So it does have a pickup window. We don't have a drive-through in that you don't order at the window and pay at the window and have speaker posts. You order online on your app, and then you just drive in, they pass it through the window. Similar to what we have in Hanover is that type of location.
Okay.
I think we'll have about 45 seats, 40 seats or so inside, if that, maybe even 35 or so. But we have people come into the restaurant. We're not open for breakfast. We're open for lunch and dinner. People come into the restaurant and eat. People pick it up through the window. Kind of a combination, 50-50 of both.
Okay. So if you're full and all the parking spaces are full, sort of what you're proposing is, oh, I'll go park at the post office or Shaw's parking lot and then walk over. Is that?
I mean, the building itself is part of the shopping center. I think if you look at it, it seems like it's part of the shopping center because all the parking is there. So it's very easy to park away from the from the building and walk over.
I haven't really thought about that. I have never seen anybody park over there and then walk over, Burger King. What my concern is that's fine.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that there's safe passageway for people.
Mhm. I don't know if anybody has the full site plan with them that describes.
So there's parking around the building. There is driveway access to the Pearl Plaza at the rear of the site.
Right. There's driving access, but again, I've never seen anybody park over there and then walk over to, to Burger King or Tennessee or whatever. I've never seen anybody do that, but, I'm not there all the time. I'm just saying, so my point is, regardless, fine, you want to park over there. I just want to make sure that, again, they have safe passageway. So I don't know if there's a sidewalk or, signage. I don't know. I don't know what you're planning on putting in, but that would be my thought.
So there's sidewalks along the front of the property on Pearl Street.
Yeah, well, on Pearl Street there is. But I'm talking about if you're parking in the lot at the supermarket or the post office and you're walking over there, I just want to make sure it's safe for people. Because let's say it gets full. You got 40 seats, you got 20 spaces. Just want to make sure that everybody's safe.
How many parking spaces are on the Chipotle site?
There's 27.
Yeah, There's 27 parking spaces on the Chipotle site, so that has a requirement of 24. So the Chipotle site is parked. The 8 spaces are really to make up for the conversion of the retail to restaurant, because 33 years ago it was approved as just retail in the 4,000 square foot building.
Yeah.
And you know, by the way, I mean, I walk that way all the time. And the Tennessee barbecue truck parks up there, and there's no issues. So, I mean, I think we had Joe can speak to this, but I think he had intended that it be for employee parking spaces predominantly.
Okay. Well, my point still stands, you know,
Yeah.
just want to make sure everybody's safe.
Safe passage.
Yeah, yeah. So would the Chipotle building look like this in Hingham?
It does. It's part of the
Does it?
Derby. I mean, I go there all the time.
Yeah.
This is pretty much the same model as the Hanover one, right?
Very similar to the Hanover one.
Yeah.
Our Hingham one is in Derby Street, so that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just if you answer, you have to come up to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry.
It looks very, I mean, this is our proto building that you'll see all in towns now. I think we're doing one in Cohasset soon, which will look like our proto. Our Hanover location looks like the previous proto that we had. So, I mean, I think it's in keeping with the center and the shopping center, certainly, so.
Sure.
It's a clean looking building.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Member Kent?
I have no questions.
Member Conley?
Is there a signage plan that you've created for the changes within like traffic flow and parking areas?
So, let's see how I can go back here. Sorry. Can you just arrow me back so I can, yeah, because I think it's on the, thanks. Go back to the first plan that has the signage on the buildings. And then there should be wayfinding signs as well. So that's the signage on our buildings. The site plan itself will have an enter and the signage that directs traffic to the pickup window. I'm not sure if it's on this plan here, but we can provide it. It doesn't look like it's on this plan here. They're probably in the exact same locations where the Burger Kings are now. We can provide the wayfaring signs, but most likely in the locations where the Burger Kings are now, but we can provide that plan.
And is there a historic prototype for your buildings?
Is there a historic one? We're constantly evolving, so they change. Oh, do you mean like something that looks historic?
Like more so, like if you go to McDonald's in Kittery, I think it is, their building is more of a historic building. I'm just wondering, in your portfolio, do you have any historic versions or iterations?
Not that I can think of in New England.
Thank you.
Member Kane?
Just following up on Member Jen's question. So I'm thinking about like the Quincy one, right? By, what is that, North Quincy? It's nice and brick.
Yes, that was a former bank building that we took over, that we didn't build that building.
Oh, that's a shame. Okay, I guess.
Which is quite similar. I mean, it may have a peak or
It
something,
has a
but
peak
yeah,
and
that was a
brick
bank
and
building.
not like metallic galvanized steel siding. I guess that's like, I think the thing when I think about, I don't know any other building in Braintree with galvanized siding.
Yeah, this proto doesn't have galvanized.
Can we go
siding,
back
I
to
don't
the
believe it.
rendering? Did I just
think it's,
misremember?
That's brick.
Oh, that's brick, okay.
Yeah, that's a brick building on the side.
All right.
And then
I stand
glazing on the
corrected.
front.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that whole side is brick.
All right, and then while we're on the topic of signs too, that McDonald's sign is like the bane of my existence in Braintree. I run by it. It's like a highway sign, but it's at
Oh,
eye level.
yeah.
There's nothing like that here.
There's no
Okay.
pylon sign or anything like that.
All right, thank you. Member?
Oh, we do have the old Burger King sign that's already there.
It's not like McDonald's. Don't
Okay.
worry.
Member Kinahan?
No questions. I'm supportive of this proposal.
Thank you. Okay, all right. I think with that, be looking for a motion to enter the correspondence list into the record.
So move.
Motion by member Kent, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Conley, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Be looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by member Conley, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Kane, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then there's two things in front of us, so we just close the public hearing on the public hearing. So call that one first, and then we'll do the minor modification. But let's make it easier. I'm looking for a motion to approve the major modification, which is Planning Board File 9323.
I move to approve the motion to the board for file 9323.
Okay, we have a motion by member Kane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes 5-0. And then next, we're looking for a motion to grant the minor modification requested in Planning Board File 82-3.
So moved.
Motion by member Conley. We have a second.
Second.
Second by member Kent. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you. All right, and then looking, oh, we have another thing, I almost forgot. Next item on our agenda is the public hearing for the zoning amendment TCO 25021. If we could just get that notice read into the public record, please.
Notice is given by the planning board under the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 5 and 11, that in the Braintree zoning ordinance, Chapter 135, Article 6 and Article 15, that a public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, at 7:15 p.m. in the Braintree Town Hall. Planning board will provide a recommendation to the town council on Order 25-021 submitted by Mayor Aaron V. Joyce. Said order includes zoning text amendments to bring Section 135-608 floodplain protection district in compliance with the current FEMA requirements.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Assistant Director Murphy. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to make this quick. I'm sure many people on this board are aware, we've been working with DCR and FEMA on updating our floodplain protection standards within our zoning ordinance. This is now our third correction. Originally, we had made a correction, FEMA okayed it, we submitted it to the council, all fine and good. We later find out, yeah, it's not okay. Do it again, and then DCR comes back and says, oh, by the way, we have new maps, and you have to update those. So I provided you guys tonight the memo that came from me on behalf of the mayor. It was sent to the council as part of the TCO application. We have made 5 different amendments to different sections. In short, I replaced about 6 to 7 words in the whole bylaw. That being said, DCR, and you'll see an email included in your packet tonight. Just quickly, it says, please remove our most recently enacted map as amended. That was removed. And then they wanted us to change some of the language for building permits under the state building code in the floodplain. So staff is recommending tonight a favorable recommendation on TCO, I forget the number off the top of my head, but on the floodplain amendment, with the recommendation that the text be modified per the DCR email dated April 17th, 2025.
Okay. And this is a public hearing, if anybody is here on the floodplain protection district amendment. Okay. All right, so be looking for a motion to close the public, oh, sorry, if you guys have any questions. Any members, any questions on it?
I had a comment.
Yes.
I wanted to thank you, Connor, for your work on this project, but for everything you've done. You've been a tremendous resource for us, and you've shared your talents with this board, and I wish you all the best in your new position in Canton.
Thank you very much, Jen. Much appreciated.
I'll second that.
Thank you, guys.
Definitely. All right, and then be looking for a motion to close the public hearing on TCO 2521.
So moved.
Motion by Member Conley, have a second.
Second.
Second by Member McCamey, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and looking for a motion to give a favorable recommendation per the staff report.
So move.
Motion by Member Kent, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Conley, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, congratulations on your 6 words. All right, looking for a motion to close tonight's hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Member Conley, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Kane, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.